She had 37 seconds left to live, and she knew it. The rain came down like it was trying to drown the city itself. Lena Cross lay on wet asphalt in a parking lot behind a closed laundromat, one eye already swelling shut, her right wrist bent at an angle wrists weren't supposed to bend. Above her, the man she'd once promised to love raised a tire iron. Her 4-year-old nephew was hidden 3 blocks away in a stairwell, waiting for an aunt who was about to never come back. Then the headlights cut through the rain, and a stranger stepped out who would change everything. If you're watching this story, do me one small favor. Hit that like button and drop the name of the city you're watching from in the comments. I want to see how far Lena's story travels tonight. Now stay with me until the very end, because what happens in the next 2 hours, you won't believe it came from one rainy night in a parking lot nobody was supposed to remember. The rain had been falling on Asheford for 9 days straight. Not the clean kind of rain that washed streets and made people talk about spring. This was the other kind, gray, stubborn, the kind that seeped under the collar of your coat and stayed there. The kind that made the whole city smell like wet concrete and old exhaust. People hunched their shoulders and walked faster and didn't look at each other. In Asheford, not looking at each other was practically a civic duty. Lena Cross was on her feet for the 11th hour of a 12-hour shift at a diner called Molly's off Route 9, and her back hurt in a way she'd stopped mentioning to anyone because nobody could do anything about it. She was 29 years old and looked 34 on a generous day. Her dark hair was pulled back so tight it made her scalp ache, and there was a coffee stain on her apron from a table of truckers who'd tipped her $4 on a $42 check and told her to smile more. "Order up, Cross." "Yeah." She grabbed the 2 plates, a patty melt, a Western omelet, and crossed the floor without spilling. She'd gotten good at that. You got good at a lot of things when you couldn't afford to mess up. The bell above the door jingled, and she didn't look. It was almost 11 at night, and the only people who came into Molly's after 10 were night shift workers, long-haul drivers, and drunks. None of them deserved a look until she was ready to give one. "Here you go, fellas. Ketchup's there, hot sauce is there. Need anything else, you holler." "Thanks, darlin'." She didn't answer. She'd stopped answering to darlin' a long time ago, somewhere back around the time it had stopped being a compliment and started sounding like ownership. Behind the counter, she checked her phone. 2 bars. No missed calls. The screen was cracked in the corner from the time she'd dropped it on the bathroom tile 3 months back and couldn't afford to fix it. The background was a picture of Noah, her sister's boy, 4 years old, sitting on the front step of their apartment in a red winter coat 2 sizes too big, looking at the camera like he wasn't sure the camera was safe. That was Noah's whole face these days. Like he wasn't sure anything was safe. He hadn't spoken in over a year. Not one word. Not since the night his mother, Lena's sister Maya, had been taken out of the house on a stretcher and hadn't come back. Lena slipped the phone into her apron pocket. "Cross." Jerry, the night manager, was leaning through the kitchen pass. "You got somebody in booth 6 staring." She looked up. Booth 6 was in the back corner, under the burned-out bulb they kept promising to fix. A man was sitting there alone, a cup of coffee in front of him he hadn't touched. Dark jacket, cap pulled low. He wasn't looking at a menu. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking at her. Her stomach did a small cold thing. "How long's he been there?" "Came in about 10 minutes ago, ordered coffee, hasn't drunk it." "You know him?" "Never seen him." She wiped her hands on her apron. "I got it." "Cross." "I said I got it, Jerry." She walked over. Her shoes squeaked on the linoleum, the way they always did after a mop down. 12 feet, 10. She kept her face the way she kept it for customers. Neutral, pleasant, a mask with a small smile printed on it. "Can I get you anything besides the coffee, sir?" He looked up. It wasn't him. It wasn't Travis. For one dizzy second, she'd been sure, and now it wasn't, and the relief rushed through her so hard she had to grip the edge of the table. "No, ma'am. I'm all set." His voice was flat, Midwestern. He had a nothing face, the kind of face you'd pass in a Walmart and forget immediately. "Long night?" "They all are." He took a slow sip of the coffee. "You, Lena." Her hand tightened on the order pad. "Who's asking?" "Nobody. Saw your name tag." He tapped his own chest where a name tag would have been if he'd had one. "Just being friendly." She stepped back. "Let me know if you need a refill." She walked to the counter without looking back. Her heart was kicking in her chest like something trying to get out of a closet. Nobody wears a jacket like that in a diner. Nobody sits like that. Nobody orders coffee they don't drink and asks the waitress her name. Jerry was watching her. You okay? I'm fine. You don't look fine. Jerry? I'm fine. He put his hands up and went back to the grill. 20 minutes later, when she turned around with a fresh pot, booth 6 was empty. $5 under the saucer. The coffee untouched. She told herself it was nothing. She told herself all the way through the last hour of her shift. She didn't believe herself. Mrs. Keller lived in the apartment across the hall and watched Noah for $15 a night and whatever was left in Lena's tip jar. She was 68, a widow, and she kept her TV turned up so loud you could hear the weather report through 2 doors. When Lena knocked, she heard Mrs. Keller fumble with the chain before opening. Lord, you look like a drowned cat, honey. Yeah. He's asleep on the couch. Didn't eat much. He ever? Mrs. Keller made a small, pitying sound. He drew another one of those pictures. Pictures? The ones with the door. You know the one I mean. Lena knew the one she meant. She crossed the tiny living room where Noah was curled up on the couch under a blanket that had once been hers when she was a kid. His thumb wasn't in his mouth, as he'd stopped doing that months ago, which some part of her had taken as a good sign until she realized he'd stopped doing a lot of things. Laughing. Calling out in his sleep, being 4. She crouched and put a hand very gently on his back. Hey, bud, time to go home. His eyes opened. He looked at her. He didn't say anything. He never said anything. But he lifted his arms and she gathered him up, all 28 pounds of him, the weight of him already familiar against her shoulder, his face against her neck. I got him, Mrs. Keller. Thank you. Lena. The old woman's voice had changed. There was a man. Lena froze. When? About an hour ago, in the lobby. Asked the super which unit was yours. Super didn't tell him a thing, mind you. Frank's got more sense than that. But he was asking. What did he look like? Tall, dark hair, jacket like the kind my Harold used to wear, you know, work jacket. Scar, right here. Mrs. Keller touched her own left eyebrow. Lena's legs went. She had to put a hand on the wall so she wouldn't drop Noah. Lena? I'm okay. I'm okay. She was not okay. She had not been okay for a long time, and she was about to be much less okay. Mrs. Keller, thank you. Lock your door tonight, all right? Chain and deadbolt. Honey, what's going on? I don't know yet. She carried Noah across the hall. Her hand was shaking so badly she couldn't get the key in the lock on the first try, or the second. When she finally got inside, she set Noah down on the small bed in the alcove that served as his room, and she stood there in the dark for a full minute with her eyes closed. Travis. He'd found her. After 18 months. After 3 states. After she'd changed her number twice, and her last name once and paid cash for everything and kept her head down like a prayer. He'd found her. She went into the bathroom and closed the door and turned on the fan so Noah wouldn't hear if she made a sound, and she sat on the closed lid of the toilet and pressed both palms against her eyes until she saw colors. She didn't cry. She'd stopped crying about Travis Marin a long time ago. You only got so many tears for a man, and she'd used all of hers on the floor of a hospital in Barrow County, while a nurse explained, in a voice too soft for what she was saying, that Maya had not made it. She lowered her hands. She looked at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back was too thin, too tired, and had a small healing cut on her lower lip from nothing dramatic, just biting down on it too hard, too often, in her sleep. Okay, she said, out loud to the woman in the mirror. Okay. Think. She didn't have much time. If he'd been at her building tonight, he'd come back. Travis didn't give up. Travis had never, in his entire miserable life, given up on anything he'd decided belonged to him. And in his head, she belonged to him, and Noah belonged to him, because Maya had belonged to him first, and Maya was dead. The restraining order was in Ohio, useless here. The cops in Asheford didn't know her from a dish rag. Even if they did, she'd been to the cops before. She knew how that movie ended. She had $640 in a coffee can in the freezer. She had a car that started 4 times out of 5. She had a 4-year-old who hadn't spoken in 14 months. Okay, she said again. She went into the kitchen and opened the freezer and pulled out the coffee can. Shit. She packed in the dark 2 duffel bags. Noah's clothes, his small stuffed rabbit with one ear missing, the blanket. Her own things she packed without looking at: jeans, t-shirts, the one decent sweater. She left the photographs. She left the good knives. She left the little ceramic dish Maya had made in high school that said home on it in crooked letters, and she felt that one in her chest harder than she would have admitted. She wrote Mrs. Keller a note. "Thank you for everything. Had to go. Please don't look for us. L." She slid 2 20s under the note and taped it to Mrs. Keller's door at 4 in the morning. She didn't turn on any lights in her own apartment. She loaded the car in 3 trips, Noah in her arms on the last one, still asleep, his cheek against her shoulder. She strapped him into the booster seat. She put the duffels in the trunk. She got in and turned the key, and the engine whined once and then caught, and she let out a breath she felt like she'd been holding for a year and a half. Then she put the car in drive and pulled out onto the slick black street, and the rain kept coming down like it had been paid to. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to go. Bus. She'd made it about 6 miles when the headlights came up behind her. Not close, not aggressive, just there. A pair of headlights in her rear view, matching her speed, hanging back 200 feet, through 3 turns she hadn't planned. She made a 4th turn into a strip mall parking lot that was closed and empty at this hour. The headlights turned too. She drove to the far end of the lot, behind a dumpster. The headlights stopped at the lot entrance and sat there. Just sat there. The rain was coming down too hard to see the car clearly. Noah made a small noise in the back seat. "Shh, baby, it's okay." She reached back without looking and touched his knee. "It's okay, we're just stopping a minute." She stared at those headlights for what felt like a long time. Then the car at the entrance eased backward, turned, and drove off. Lena sat there for another full minute. Her hands were locked on the steering wheel so tight her fingers had gone numb. "Okay," she said, to nobody. "Okay, maybe nothing. Maybe nothing." She pulled back out onto the street. She made it another 8 blocks before she saw the same headlights again, coming up from a side street, sliding in behind her, keeping the same 200-foot distance. That was when she knew. Her foot went down on the gas without her deciding to do it. The old car coughed and lurched and started to climb. 40, 50, 55. The wipers couldn't keep up. The streetlights smeared into long white lines. Noah whimpered in the back and she said, "It's okay, buddy, it's okay," in a voice she was trying very hard to keep from cracking. The car behind her sped up. She took a right on Elm, then a left on something she didn't see the name of, then a right again. And somewhere in all of that, she turned onto a street that shouldn't have been a dead end, but was construction barrels, a sawhorse, a hand-painted sign that said, "Road closed." She hit the brakes. The car behind her didn't come around the corner. For a second, she thought she'd lost him. For a second. Then she heard another car coming up from the opposite direction, headlights cutting across the wet windshield. It rolled up slow and stopped, blocking the one exit from the dead-end street. A pickup truck, dark blue. She knew that truck. She'd ridden in that truck when she was 23 and too stupid to know better. The driver's door opened. Travis Marin got out. He was bigger than she remembered. That was the first thing her brain did. It noticed his size like it was trying to distract her from the rest. He was wearing the work jacket Mrs. Keller had described. His hair was wet, plastered to his forehead. The scar over his left eyebrow was exactly where she remembered it, because she was the one who'd put it there, the last night they were together, with the heel of her shoe. He walked toward her car, unhurried, through the rain. She scrambled for the phone in her apron pocket. She'd forgotten she was still wearing the apron, her whole life falling apart, and she was still wearing a Molly's Diner apron. And she got the phone out and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. 911, what's your emergency? There's a man. My ex. He's blocking my car. I think he's going to... Ma'am, what's your location? I don't know. I'm in Asheford. I'm on some street. It's a dead end. Travis tapped on her driver's side window with one knuckle. Lena, girl, open up. She didn't look at him. Ma'am, stay on the line. Can you... He tapped again, harder. Don't make me break it, Lena. Come on now. Open the door. Noah was awake. She could feel him awake in the back seat. She could feel him being silent in the way only Noah could be silent, a silence that had a shape to it, a weight. Lena, The dispatcher was still talking. Lena let the phone fall into her lap. She rolled the window down 2 inches. Her voice, when it came out, was not her voice. Travis, go home. Please, just go home. You took my nephew. He's not, Travis, he's not yours. He's Maya's. And Maya is, don't you say her name. His hand came through the gap at the top of the window. He was trying for the door lock. She slammed her elbow down, and he swore and pulled back, and his fist came through the glass. Not through it, but against it, hard enough that a spiderweb of white cracks blossomed from the center of the window outward. Open the door. Noah made a sound in the back seat. A small sound. Not a word. Just a small, scared sound, like a kitten. Something in Lena changed. She threw the car into reverse. The rear tires spun on the wet pavement and then grabbed, and the car lurched backward, and Travis's truck was still blocking the way out. But she wasn't aiming for a way out. She was aiming for him. She threw it into drive. Her foot went down. Travis dove sideways. The car clipped his hip anyway, a hard thump she felt in the steering column, and he went down rolling. She didn't stop to see if he got back up. She drove. She drove up over the curb, across a patch of dead grass between 2 construction barrels. She heard one of them scrape the whole length of the passenger side, and out onto the street beyond. The car was making a new sound now, something from the front axle, a metallic tock, tock, tock that got worse every time she hit a puddle. She didn't stop. She drove 6 blocks, 8, 10. She turned at random. She kept checking the mirror. No headlights. Then the tock, tock, tock became a tock, tock, pop, and the steering wheel went loose in her hands. She coasted the dying car into the parking lot of a laundromat that had closed hours ago. It rolled to a stop behind the building under a single flickering sodium light next to a dumpster that smelled of wet cardboard and something worse. She killed the engine. She sat there shaking. Noah made another small sound. Buddy? Her voice came out in pieces. Hey, I'm here. We're gonna be fine, okay? She turned around in her seat. Noah was staring at her with his enormous dark eyes, his rabbit clutched against his chest. He didn't say anything. He didn't cry. He just looked at her like she was the last solid thing in the world, and it broke something in her that was already half broken to begin with. Okay, she said. Okay. Listen, buddy. Listen to me. She was digging in her bag, finding her phone, finding the charger cable that had gone missing somewhere in the chaos and wasn't here. The phone said 9%. I need you to be really brave right now. Really, really brave. Can you do that? He nodded. We have to walk a little bit. We have to find a payphone or a gas station, somewhere with people, okay? You got to hold my hand the whole time. Don't let go. Not for anything. He nodded again. She got out of the car, and it was only then, standing in the rain, that she realized she couldn't walk right. Something had happened to her knee when she'd thrown the car into reverse. She'd jammed it against the steering column, and every step was a bright hot line of pain up her thigh. She got Noah out of the back seat and into her arms. I got you, buddy. Here we go. She started walking. She made it exactly 11 steps from the car before the headlights came around the corner of the laundromat. It wasn't Travis's truck. It was worse. It was Travis's truck and another car behind it, the car that had been following her, the sedan that had matched her turns on the way out of the neighborhood. Travis got out of the truck. Another man got out of the sedan. He was huge, bald, with a neck thicker than Lena's thigh, and he was smiling in a way that she would remember for the rest of her life. There she is, Travis said. There's my girl. Lena backed up. Her back hit the wet brick of the laundromat wall. Travis, please. Give me the kid, Lena. He's scared, Travis. He's scared. Just let me. Give me the goddamn kid. She couldn't breathe. Noah was clinging to her, his small arms locked around her neck, and she was whispering to him, and she didn't know what she was whispering. It's okay. It's okay. I love you. I love you. It's okay. Travis closed the distance in 3 steps. He grabbed her hair. The pain was so sudden and so complete that her legs gave out, and she went down on one knee on the wet asphalt. Noah tumbled from her arms and hit the ground and scrambled like an animal, into the gap between the dumpster and the laundromat wall. He disappeared into the shadow. A tiny, silent, 4-year-old flash of red coat, and he was gone. Noah! Travis's fist caught her in the side of the head and her vision went white. She was on the ground. She didn't remember hitting it. The rain was on her face and in her mouth. She could taste copper. From somewhere far away, the bald man was saying, Travis, the kid, man, the kid went... And Travis was saying, leave him. He can't go anywhere. Get her in the truck. And somebody's hands were under her arms, trying to drag her, and her own hands were scrabbling at the wet ground like a crab, trying to find purchase, finding nothing. Her right wrist was twisted under her. She heard very clearly a small dry sound, like a chicken bone snapping, and then she heard her own voice make a sound that wasn't a word. Shut up, Travis said. He was standing over her. There was a tire iron in his hand. She didn't know where he'd gotten the tire iron. It didn't matter. It was the kind of thing Travis always had, the way other people always had a pen. You made me do this, he said. You know that, right? You ran. You took him. You made me do this. She looked up at him through the rain and the blood in her eye, and she thought about Noah in the shadow by the dumpster. Noah who was going to come out and find her, and no one was going to know. No one was going to come. And it wasn't fear that was in her chest in that moment. It was sorrow, big and clean and surprised. Sorrow that it was going to end like this, in a parking lot behind a laundromat, with her nephew watching. Travis lifted the tire iron. Headlights cut across the lot. Travis turned his head. A black SUV rolled in. Not fast, not screeching, just rolled in at the speed a car rolls into a parking lot, and it came to a stop about 20 feet from them. The high beams were on. The rain fell through them in silver sheets. Nothing happened for maybe 2 seconds. Lena couldn't see anything past the headlights. Then the driver's door opened. A man got out. She saw his silhouette first, tall, not heavy, but solid, the way a doorframe is solid. He wore a dark coat that went past his knees. No hat, no hood. His hair was short and dark and already wet from the walk from the car to them. He didn't hurry. He closed the SUV's door behind him, carefully, like closing a door in a library. Mind your own business, friend, Travis called out. Nothing to see? The stranger didn't say anything. He kept walking. The bald man moved first, stepped toward him, fast, with a short-handled thing in his hand, a kosh maybe, Lena couldn't tell. He was bigger than the stranger by a solid 50 pounds. He came in low and hard. The stranger did something with his hand. Lena couldn't track it. The bald man's head went one way and his body went another, and then he was on the ground and he wasn't getting up. It had taken maybe a second and a half, maybe less. Hey! Travis was backing up now, the tire iron still in his hand, but the way he was holding it had changed. It wasn't a weapon in his hand anymore. It was a thing he was holding because he'd forgotten he was holding it. Hey man, I don't know what you think. The stranger kept walking. I said... Travis swung the tire iron. The stranger caught Travis's wrist mid-swing. There was a sound. Travis made a noise that came from a part of him he probably didn't know he had. The tire iron fell to the pavement with a flat, wet ring. The stranger did something else. A step, a turn. Lena couldn't see it. She was trying to keep her eyes open. And Travis was on his knees. The stranger's hand was on the back of Travis's neck. Not hard, just there, like a man resting his hand on the hood of a car. Who sent you? Stranger's voice was quiet. It was the first time Lena had heard him speak. It was a low voice, clean, no accent she could place. American, but a lot of places. I don't know what you... Who sent you? Nobody sent me. She's my... The stranger adjusted his grip, very slightly. Travis made the noise again. I'm her ex. Okay, I'm just here for my family. You're not. What? You're not her family. The stranger's voice was almost gentle. And after tonight, you're not going to be in her state. Or the next one. Or the one after that. Do you understand me? Yeah, okay. Say it. I won't come near her. Louder. I won't come near her. The stranger let him go. Travis sat down in the puddle, breathing in little hitching gasps, cradling his wrist. The stranger turned away from him like he'd already forgotten he was there. He walked to Lena. He crouched down beside her on the wet asphalt. Up close, she could see his face for the first time. He was maybe 40, maybe a hard 35. There was a thin white scar along the line of his jaw. His eyes were a color she couldn't name in the bad light. Not blue, not gray, something in between, like weather. "Ma'am?" He wasn't touching her. He was keeping his hands where she could see them. "Are you able to stand?" "Noah." Her voice didn't work. "My nephew. He ran. I saw the boy. He's behind the dumpster. He's fine." He didn't look away from her face. "Wrist is broken. Possibly a rib. What's your name?" "Lena." "Lena. My name is Adrien. I'm going to help you up. Is that all right?" She didn't say anything. She couldn't. He waited. "Yes," she whispered. He put one hand under her good arm and got her up with a kind of care she hadn't felt from another human in so long that her throat closed on it. He did not look at Travis again. He did not need to. "Can you walk to the car?" My nephew. I'll get him." He left her leaning against the brick wall, and he walked over to the dumpster, and he crouched down, and he was there for maybe 30 seconds, saying something too quiet for her to hear. Then he came back out with Noah in his arms. Noah was looking at him the way Noah looked at everyone, which was to say he wasn't looking, he was watching, and there was a piece of the stranger's coat bunched in his small fist. Noah was not crying. The stranger carried him to Lena. He did not hand him to her. He saw her broken wrist, the way she was favoring her ribs, and he kept Noah himself, held easy against one arm, and put his other hand lightly at the small of Lena's back. "The car is warm," he said. "Let's go." She walked. Every step was a new kind of hurt, but she walked because he was walking beside her at exactly her pace, not rushing, as if he had all night. The bald man was still on the pavement, breathing but not moving. Travis was still sitting in his puddle. He didn't look up as they passed. The SUV was warm. The SUV smelled like leather and some kind of clean soap. Adrien, his name was Adrien, got the back door open and settled Noah into the far seat and then, with the same careful hands, helped Lena into the middle. He reached across her for the seatbelt without looking at her body and clicked it into place. "Hospital," he said. It wasn't a question. "I can't." Her voice was thin. "I can't go to a hospital. They'll ask. He'll find us. He has people who—" "I know." Adrien closed her door. He went around to the driver's side. He got in. He met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "I have a doctor. He comes to the house. Is that all right?" She stared at him. A doctor who comes to the house. In the life she had been living for 29 years, there was no such thing as a doctor who came to the house. There were emergency rooms with fluorescent lights and intake forms and men in uniforms who asked questions in tones that meant they already didn't believe the answers. There was not a doctor who came to the house. "Who are you?" she said. Adrien Voss looked at her for a long moment in the rearview mirror. The rain was still coming down on the windshield, but inside the car, it was warm and dry and quiet. "Somebody who stopped," he said. "Do you want me to drive?" She looked at Noah in the far seat. His eyes were already closing. His small hand was still wrapped in the hem of Adrien's coat, the part that had been left behind when Adrien got in the car, a piece of dark wool in a 4-year-old's fist. "Yes," she said. Adrien put the car in drive. The SUV eased out of the parking lot of the closed laundromat and onto the slick black street, and the rain kept coming down on Asheford like it had been paid to. And somewhere behind them, a man with a broken wrist was throwing up in a puddle, and another man was waking up with a headache he'd have for a week. Lena Cross closed her eyes. She didn't mean to sleep. She had too much to be afraid of to sleep. But the seat was warm, and Noah was breathing evenly beside her, and there was a stranger in the driver's seat who had, for reasons she did not understand and could not yet ask, decided that tonight she was not going to die in a parking lot. And her body, which had been holding itself together with safety pins and stubbornness for a year and a half, finally let go of one of the pins. She slept. She did not see the streetlights passing over her face. She did not see Adrien Voss adjust the rearview mirror so he could watch her and the boy. She did not see him reach into the inside pocket of his coat and take out a phone that was not the kind of phone regular people carried, and press a single button and speak in a voice that was quieter than the rain. "It's me. 2 guests coming in, a woman and a child. The woman needs Okafor. Tonight." A pause. No, I don't know yet. Another pause. Longer. Because I was there, Adrien Voss said into the phone, watching Lena Cross sleep in his mirror. That's all. I was there. He hung up. He drove north through the rain toward a place Lena Cross had never heard of, toward a life she did not know was about to become hers, toward gates that opened for him without a word, and rooms with fires already lit, and a boy who would, in a place he did not yet know existed, say his first word in 14 months. But none of that had happened yet. Tonight, there was only the rain on the windshield and the warm quiet of the car, and a woman sleeping with her broken wrist cradled against her chest, and a man driving carefully, both hands on the wheel, in no hurry at all. The taillights disappeared around the bend. The parking lot behind the laundromat was empty again except for the rain, and the rain kept falling, and the night went on without them. She woke to the sound of tires on gravel. For a few seconds, Lena didn't know where she was. There was a warmth around her she didn't recognize. There was a dull, throbbing pain in her right wrist that she recognized very well, the kind of pain that had a heartbeat of its own. She opened her eyes, and the car was slowing, and she saw iron gates through the windshield, tall black iron, sliding open without a sound, without anyone standing at them. The SUV rolled through. The gates closed behind them. Trees. A long dark drive. No streetlights. Somewhere off to the right, she caught the shape of a low stone wall running along the edge of the property, disappearing into wet woods. She looked to her left. Noah was still asleep, his cheek against the seatbelt, his rabbit under his chin. His small hand was no longer holding Adrien's coat. At some point in the drive, he had let go. "Where are we?" she said. Her voice came out sandpapered. "North of the city, private road." The man in the driver's seat didn't turn around. "About 40 miles. 40 miles. She had slept through 40 miles. She hadn't slept like that through anything in a year and a half. "I didn't mean to. You needed it." The drive curved, and a house came into view through the rain. And even through the rain and the cracked edge of her own vision, she saw that it wasn't a house. It was something older than a house. 3 stories of dark stone, slate roof, long windows glowing yellow from inside. It looked like a place where no one would hear you scream, and that thought went through her before she could stop it, and her good hand tightened on her lap. Adrien saw the movement in the rear view. "Lena." "Yeah, you're safe here. I know I can't prove that yet, but I can say it." She didn't answer. She didn't know what you said to a thing like that. He pulled around a small circular drive and stopped under a covered stone portico. The rain sound dropped away as they went under the roof. A man was already coming out of a side door, older, gray at the temples, in a dark cardigan over a collared shirt. He carried a leather bag that was a doctor's bag, the way pictures in old books showed doctors' bags. Adrien got out. He came around to Lena's side. He opened the door slowly, and he spoke before he reached for her. "I'm going to help you out. Your wrist first. Lean on my arm, not your hand." She nodded. It took them a long minute to get her out of the car. Every small movement set something in her ribs on fire, and she made a sound in her teeth that she hated making. The doctor was there at her elbow before she was all the way up, his hand light under her forearm. "Mrs. he began. "Just Lena." "Lena, I'm Samuel Okafor. Let's get you inside before you catch pneumonia on top of everything else." She glanced back at Noah. Adrien was already opening the far door. He lifted the boy out the way. A man who had carried sleeping children before lifted sleeping children. One arm under the knees, one behind the shoulders, the small head tucked under his jaw. Noah didn't wake. His rabbit dangled by one ear from his fist. "Follow me, please," Okafor said. They went through the side door into a corridor with warm wood floors and a runner rug that ate the sound of their steps. Lena was leaning on the doctor more than she wanted to be leaning on anyone. She kept turning her head to check that Adrien and Noah were still behind her. They were. Adrien walked slow, matching the doctor's pace without being told. They turned into a room that had been prepared. That was the word for it. The overhead light was on but low. A tall, narrow table with a white cover on it had been placed in the center. There was a tray of instruments on a rolling cart. A small kettle was steaming on a side table, of all ridiculous things, and there was a stack of folded towels. Whoever Okafor was, he had known they were coming. "Let's get you on the table," he said. "Easy now." "My nephew is fine." Adrien's voice behind her. "I'll take him to the couch in the next room. He'll be 10 feet from you. You'll hear him breathe. She wanted to say no. She wanted to say, bring him in here. I need to see him, but her knee was shaking under her weight, and she knew if she tried to argue, she'd go down. She let the doctor help her up onto the table. Adrien paused in the doorway with Noah in his arms. Lena. Yeah, I'll be back in 2 minutes. Dr. Okafor will not touch you with anything until you say he can. If you want me in the room, I'll be in the room. If you want me out, I'll be out. Your call. It was such a strange thing to say. A stranger. A man who had stopped a tire iron 30 miles back, offering her the one thing she hadn't been offered by a man in a very long time, which was a choice. Out, she said. Please, just stay close. I'll be right there. He went. Okafor set his bag down and opened it. He did not rush. He looked older up close than he had looked outside. 60, maybe more. A small, neat man with careful hands. He had warm brown skin and tired, kind eyes behind thin-rimmed glasses. Before I do anything, he said, I would like to ask you some questions. Is that all right? Yeah. Does anything hurt that is not your wrist? My ribs. Left side. And my head. May I see your eyes? She tilted her face up. He took a small light from his bag and flashed it in one eye, then the other. He made a small hem that could have meant anything. The cut on your lip is old. Days? Months. He didn't comment on that. The bruising around your eye is new. Tonight new. When he struck you, did you lose consciousness? I don't know, maybe a second. Any nausea right now? A little. Light bothering you? A little. All right. He put the little light back in the bag. We are going to need to x-ray the wrist. I can do that here. I have a unit in the next building over. I'm going to stabilize it first, give you something for the pain that is stronger than ibuprofen and weaker than what you'd get in a hospital, and then I'm going to look at your ribs. Is any of that not acceptable? It's fine. Lena. He met her eyes. You can say no to any step. You can stop me at any point. There's no clock running in this room. She looked at him. He looked back without flinching. She thought about the ER in Asheford last year, when Maya was in it and dying, and the way they had kept asking Lena for her identification and her insurance card while her sister stopped breathing down the hall, and her throat closed up. Go ahead, she said. He went ahead. It took a little over an hour. She cried twice, quietly, in the way she had perfected since Maya died, tears that came out of her eyes and ran down to her jaw without her face moving. Okafor did not look at her when she did it. He gave her a small square of tissue without comment and kept working. When he was done with her wrist, it was in a clean black brace, set and cushioned. 2 ribs were bruised but not cracked. Her eye would look worse tomorrow than it did now. Her head had a mild concussion, maybe. Possibly nothing. You are very lucky, he said. I want you to understand that. I know. I'm not sure you do. He closed his bag. You will be sore for 2 weeks. The wrist will be 6. You need to sleep, real sleep, not the kind you got in the car. He paused. Mr. Voss asked me to tell you that the room at the top of the east stairs is yours for as long as you need it. The boy will be across the hall. There's a bathroom between them. Nobody will come up that hallway tonight except me. If you call for me or him. If you call for him. Is there anything else you need before I step out? She shook her head. He went to the door. He paused there. Lena. Yeah. Whatever you have heard about the man who brought you here. Good, bad, the rest. None of it is a reason to be frightened of him in this house. I have known him 11 years. In this house, to a woman in your condition, he is safe. I say this so that you can sleep. He let himself out. She sat on the edge of the table in a borrowed t-shirt that was too big for her, and she looked at her hands, the one in the brace, the one without. And she tried to make sense of the hours she had just lived through, and she couldn't. So she stopped trying. A minute later, there was a soft knock. Come in. Adrien opened the door halfway, not all the way. He had Noah in his arms again. The boy was awake now, but barely. Eyes half-lidded, thumb not quite in his mouth, the rabbit under his chin. He woke up a few minutes ago, Adrien said. He wanted you. Her heart did a small, painful thing. He said that. He didn't say it. He reached. She let out a breath. Bring him here. Adrien crossed the room. He set Noah down on the table next to her very carefully, and then he stepped back. Noah immediately crawled into her lap, mindful, somehow, of her bad arm, tucking himself against her good side, his small head under her chin. She closed her eyes and breathed him in. Okay, buddy. Her voice was shaky. Hi. Hi. I got you. I got you. Noah said nothing, but his small fist bunched itself in the collar of her borrowed t-shirt, and he did not let go. Adrien stood by the door. He didn't sit down. He didn't approach. He had his hands in the pockets of his coat, which he hadn't taken off. There's food upstairs, he said. Soup, bread, fruit. If either of you want any of it. If you don't, the bed is made and the door locks from your side. The door locks from my side, she repeated quietly. Yes. Not from yours. Not from mine. She opened her eyes. She looked at him. Why? She said. He seemed to consider the question. Because you were a woman being hit with a tire iron in a parking lot, he said finally, and I was a man with a car. That's the honest answer. The rest of it, whatever the rest of it turns out to be, you and I can figure out in the morning, or in a week, or in a month. Tonight, you sleep. I'll be downstairs. If you need anything at all, there is a button beside the bed. It rings my phone. Press it. Adrien. It was the first time she had said his name. He waited. Thank you. He gave a small nod, like a man who had been thanked for a thing he didn't feel he deserved to be thanked for, and he stepped out of the room and closed the door behind him. She carried Noah up the east stairs herself. It hurt. She did it anyway. She fell asleep with the boy in the crook of her good arm under a comforter that smelled of clean cotton, in a bed bigger than any bed she had slept in her life. And if she dreamed, she didn't remember. The next morning came in gray. Lena woke to filtered light through tall curtains, and the sound, somewhere below her, of someone moving in a kitchen, a pot set down, a drawer opening. Noah was still asleep against her. For a long time she didn't move. She just lay there and listened to a house that wasn't trying to kill her and tried to decide what that felt like. It felt wrong. That was the honest answer. It felt so wrong she could barely stand it. She eased out of bed. Every inch of her hurt. She made it to the bathroom and turned on the light and looked at herself in the mirror, and for a second she couldn't breathe. Her left eye was the color of a storm. Her lower lip was split again. There was a purple print on her jaw that was the exact shape of a thumb. She ran the water until it was scalding, and she put her good hand under it until she could feel it. Okay, she said to the woman in the mirror. Okay. Think. There was a t-shirt and a pair of soft pants folded on the counter that hadn't been there last night. Her size. She hadn't told anyone her size. Someone had guessed, and guessed close. That small thing, a stranger knowing she was a medium, put a cold, small stone in her stomach. She dressed. She checked on Noah. He was still asleep. She went down the hall, and then down the east stairs, because she could not stand not knowing the shape of the house she was in. Not for another minute. The house was big, but not the way she'd been afraid it would be. No gold, no marble, no loud money. Dark wood floors that creaked in a few places. Rugs that had been walked on. Walls with books along them. Paperbacks mixed in with the hardcovers, which was a detail she didn't expect. A big stone fireplace in what must have been a sitting room, where someone had laid a fire but hadn't lit it. She found the kitchen by the smell of coffee. Adrien was at the stove. He had taken the coat off, finally. He was in dark trousers and a plain gray sweater, sleeves pushed up to the elbow. His forearms were lean and hard and carried a small scar on the left one that she did not look at twice. He was cracking eggs into a pan, one-handed, the way people who had cooked a lot of meals alone learned to crack eggs. He heard her at the doorway and didn't turn around. Coffee's on the counter. There's a cup out for you. Cream's in the fridge. Sugar's in the bowl by the toaster. He finally glanced over his shoulder. How did you sleep? Better than I should have. That's your body telling you the truth about something. He turned the heat down under the pan. Eggs? I don't think I can eat. Try to. If you can't finish them, I'll finish them. She walked over. She poured herself coffee. She tried to do it with her good hand, and she got most of it into the cup. Adrien did not offer to help. He let her do it. That, she noticed. Noah's still asleep, she said. Good. I want to ask you some things. Ask. She leaned against the counter. She held the cup with her good hand. The coffee was strong and black and better than any coffee that had ever come out of Molly's. Who are you? He slid the eggs onto a plate. He set the plate on the island between them. He pushed a fork toward her. My name is Adrien Voss. I'm 41 years old. I was born in a city that no longer exists under the name it had then. I have lived in this country for 23 years. I do not work for any government. I have not worked for any government for a long time. I own a number of businesses, most of them legitimate, some of them less so. I have done things in my life that I am not going to tell you about over breakfast. He stopped. Is that enough for right now? No. Ask. Why were you on that street last night? He held her eyes. I wasn't. What? I wasn't on that street. I was 4 blocks away. I had just come out of a meeting I did not want to be in. I was on my phone in my car and I heard a woman yell something on the other end of a call that wasn't mine. A cross line, a missed dial. I've never figured out which. And I thought about driving home. And then I thought, no. And I turned the car around and I drove toward where the sound came from. He looked down at the pan. I don't know why. That's the honest answer, Lena. I don't have a reason I can sell you. I turned the car around. She stared at him. You expect me to believe that? No. He turned the burner off. I expect you to not believe it, and to keep asking yourself why I would lie in that particular way, when there are 100 better lies available to me. And eventually to land where I landed, which is, it's what happened. She set the coffee down. Adrien, my ex has friends, the kind of friends who don't come alone. He had at least one with him last night, which means he has more. I know. He's going to come back. I know. If you help me. If you let us stay here another night, even, you are putting your house in the middle of it. I know that too. Then why? His eyes came up again. They were gray in this light, gray like a pier on a cloudy day. Because you were going to die, he said, and the boy was going to watch. And the people who were going to do it were going to go home and eat breakfast. And I was done with that, Lena. I was done with that a long time before I pulled into that parking lot. I just didn't know it until I did. She didn't say anything. She couldn't. He pushed the plate a little closer to her. Eat. She ate. She managed about half. He finished the rest without commenting on it. There are some things you need to know, he said, when the plate was empty. I'd rather tell you now than have you figure them out alone. First thing, don't leave the property without me. Not for a walk, not for a cigarette, not yet. The gates know you now. They'll open for you. But I need 2 weeks to see what kind of attention your ex has. I don't smoke. Good. Second, there's a housekeeper, Anna. She comes Tuesdays and Fridays. You'll meet her. She does not speak about what she sees in this house. I pay her accordingly. Third, there's a man named Reyes who runs security here. He has 3 men under him. You will see them. They will not speak to you unless you speak to them first. They will not enter any room you are in without knocking. If any of them do anything that makes you uncomfortable, you tell me, and I handle it. Fourth, he paused. Your nephew. What about him? He hasn't spoken. Not in 14 months. What happened to his mother? She looked into her coffee. Travis beat her to death, she said, and it came out flat. In front of him, in their kitchen. I had my key. I had come over for dinner. I was coming up the stairs. Noah was on the floor next to her when I came in. He stopped talking that night. Adrien was silent for a long moment. Did they arrest your ex? They arrested him. He was out in 11 months. His lawyer argued it was a fight. She came at him first. It doesn't matter. He was out in 11 months and I took Noah and I left Ohio the day before he walked out. He has custody rights to the boy. He's the biological uncle, not the father, so no. But he acts like he does. In his head, Noah is his property because Maya was. Adrien nodded slowly. Okay, he said, then I'm going to make some phone calls today. I need you to trust me to make them. They'll be about your ex, where he is, who he's with, who owes him a favor, who he owes. I'm not going to do anything to him today. I'm gathering. Do you understand? Yes. If at any point you want me to stop, I will stop. This is your family, not mine. I'm a set of hands." She looked at him across the counter, at the careful way he was holding himself, like a man who had learned a long time ago that women with bruises needed space more than they needed sympathy. "Adrien." "Yeah." "Why are you being careful with me?" He considered the question. "Because I've seen this before," he said. "And what you need from me right now is not kindness. It's predictability. So I'm being predictable. If that stops being useful, let me know." She almost laughed. Came out as something closer to a cough. "You're a weird man." "I've heard that." She looked down at her coffee. The kitchen was warm. Somewhere upstairs, very faintly, she heard a door open and small feet on a hallway runner. "He's up," she said. "Go." She went. The first time Noah spoke, it was 3 days later, and it was to a dog. The dog belonged to the housekeeper, Anna, a small white and brown thing, a mutt of some kind, 15 pounds, maybe, with one ear that stood up and one that didn't. Anna brought him on Fridays because she had no one to leave him with at home, and Mr. Voss didn't mind. His name was Benny, and he had no manners, and he loved everyone. Noah had spent 2 days walking the house slowly, his hand in Lena's, looking at everything without touching anything. Adrien had shown him the library. Adrien had shown him the big back room with the windows that looked out onto the wet garden. Adrien had shown him, and this was the one Lena did not expect, a small room off the kitchen with a child-sized chair in it and a low bookshelf and a wooden train set laid out on a rug. The train set had not been there when they arrived. Lena was sure of that. It had appeared, somehow, between Wednesday night and Thursday morning, like everything else in this house appeared, quietly, without comment. "Was this yours?" she had asked him, because she couldn't help it. "No, my brother's." "You have a brother." Had. He had not offered more, and she had not asked. Friday morning, Noah was sitting on the rug in that room with the train set, arranging the cars in a line. He did not play with trains. He arranged them. Lena had learned this about her nephew in the last year and a half. He did not play. He organized. He made small worlds on floors, and he put everything in its correct place, and then he sat and looked at the world he had made. Anna came in with Benny trotting at her heels. She started to shoo the dog out. "Lo siento, señora, lo saco." But Lena was watching Noah's face, and she held up a hand. "Wait, Anna, wait, it's okay." Benny spotted Noah and did what Benny did with every new human, which was run up, put his front paws on the boy's leg, and demand. Noah went very still. Lena's throat closed. She could not breathe. She had not been in a room with Noah and an animal in a long time. She did not know what Noah was going to do. Noah lifted one small hand. He touched the top of the dog's head. Benny leaned into it. And Noah, who had not opened his mouth in 14 months, Noah, who had watched his mother die on a kitchen floor and decided, with whatever logic a 3-year-old had, that words were a thing you could choose to stop having. Noah Cross looked at the small, ugly dog and said, in a voice she had nearly forgotten, "Hi." It was one word. Lena put her good hand over her mouth and she sat down on the floor because her legs would not hold her. Anna was crying before Lena was. Anna, a woman Lena had known for 2.5 days, was crying quietly by the doorway with her fingers pressed to her lips. Benny, oblivious, rolled over and presented his belly. Noah, even more oblivious, scratched it. "Hi, dog," he said. "Hi, dog." Lena was laughing now and crying, both at once, and she was reaching for him, and she stopped herself because she knew Noah, and she knew if she made this a big thing, it would close the door again. So she wiped her face with the back of her good wrist, and she said, casually, like it was any Friday, "His name's Benny, buddy. You can say his name if you want." Noah looked at her. His dark eyes were wet, but not with sadness, with something else, something that had not been in his eyes for a long time. "Benny," he said, carefully. Then he went back to scratching the dog. Lena sat on the floor of that little room for a long time. She didn't get up even when Anna did and left the two of them alone. She sat there and watched her nephew put his face down into the fur of a dog he had just met, and she felt something in her chest that she had been sure, for over a year, was dead. When she finally came out, Adrien was in the hallway, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed and his eyes on the floor. She stopped. "How long have you been there?" she said. "Since hi." She didn't know what to say. I didn't want to come in, he said. I thought it wasn't mine. It wasn't. Isn't. She wiped her face. Thank you. For the train set. He shook his head once, like he was batting the thanks away. Lena. Yeah. I got the information I was waiting for, about your ex. I'd like to talk to you about it, but not now. Later, when the boy is asleep. The small, soft moment that had been around her since Noah's voice came back closed up, clean as a door. Okay. 8 o'clock, the sitting room. Okay. He pushed off the wall and walked away, and she stood in the hallway for a moment, listening to the small sounds from the room behind her. A dog snuffling, a boy laughing for the first time in 14 months. And she understood, with a clarity that had nothing to do with hope, that whatever she had just stepped into, she was in it now. There was no going back to Asheford. There was no going back to Molly's diner. There was no going back to the woman she had been 3 nights ago. The woman she had been 3 nights ago had been about to die in a parking lot. This woman, whoever she was going to be, had a 4-year-old laughing behind a door. She would figure out the rest as it came. Done. At 8 o'clock, she went downstairs. Noah was asleep. Benny was asleep on Noah's bed, curled against his ribs. Anna had agreed, with some ceremony, that the dog could stay the night, just the one night, Senora, you understand. Lena had understood. She had also understood that Benny would be staying more than one night. Everyone in the house had understood that by dinner. The sitting room was lit by 2 lamps and the fire in the stone fireplace. Adrien had finally lit it. He was standing at the mantel with a glass of something amber in his hand. He turned when she came in. Sit, he said. Please. Drink? Water. He poured her a glass from a carafe on the side table. She took it with her good hand. She sat on the edge of the long couch because sitting back hurt her ribs. Tell me, she said. He did not sit. He stayed at the mantel. Your ex is in Asheford. He checked into a motel on Route 12 2 nights ago, the night after the parking lot. He has a broken wrist and a cast, which he is telling people he got in a car accident. He has not contacted the police about the parking lot, which I did not expect him to. He has made 3 phone calls in the last 48 hours that matter. One to his brother in Ohio, one to a man named Dale Witt, who runs a body shop that does not do much body work, and one to a number I have not identified yet, but which traces to a burner that was bought at a gas station in West Virginia. She was already shaking her head. How do you... Don't ask me how I know. Ask me what I know. It will be a shorter conversation. She closed her eyes. Okay, here's what I think based on the calls. He is not letting this go. He has told his brother he knows where you were, which is half true. He knows where you were. He does not know where you are, but he is putting together resources, money, people, 3 men, maybe 4. He is not a smart man, Lena, but he is a stubborn one, and stubborn is often enough. I know he's stubborn. I believe you. She opened her eyes. So what do we do? 3 options. He counted them on the fingers of the hand that wasn't holding the glass. 1. I put you and the boy on a plane tomorrow morning. New name, new papers, a cousin of mine in a country you have never heard of. He is a good man. His wife is a better woman. You live there quietly, the boy goes to school, I pay for everything, and in 18 months we look at whether you can come back. This is the safest option for you. It is also the option where I lose track of you, which I would accept. 2. You stay here. I pull in more men. I make this house a small fortress for 6 months. Your ex comes, my men end him, and we move on. This is the option where you see violence up close, where you are collateral if anything goes wrong, and where the boy is in a house that becomes a barracks. I do not love option 2. 3. He set the glass down. 3. I go to Ohio. I find him. I make it clear, in a way he understands, that he is to forget your name and your face and the boy's existence for the rest of his life. I do not kill him unless I have to. I do not plan to have to. But I will leave him with a certainty that is deeper than any restraining order you will ever get from any court. Option 3 ends the problem. It also involves me doing a thing I promised myself I would stop doing 5 years ago and mostly have. The fire popped in the grate. Lena looked at her water glass, then at the fire, then at him. Option 3 scares me. It should. Not because of what happens to Travis. He tilted his head just slightly, a listening gesture. Because of what happens to you. He was quiet for a long moment. Lena, he said, I appreciate that. I do. But that is not a weight you should be carrying on your third day in a house you did not choose. What I do or don't do, what it costs me, that is mine. What I am asking you, here, tonight, is which of three options you can live with, not me, you. She looked at him. What would you do? She said. If it was you, I would take 3. Why? Because 1 and 2 end eventually with him showing up somewhere you did not see coming. Maybe in a year. Maybe in 5. But he will show up. Men like that do. And 3. 3 ends it. She set the water glass down on the side table. I need to sleep on it, she said. I can't decide this tonight. Of course. But I'm leaning toward 3. Lena. Yeah. Don't decide it to save me the trouble. Decide it because you believe it. She nodded. She got up. She stopped at the doorway. Adrien? Yeah. The train set? Yeah? Your brother. You said had. A pause. I had a brother, he said. He died when he was 8. I was 10. It was not an accident, although the people around us decided to call it one. I have not told that to 4 people in 30 years. I'm telling you now because you asked, and because you are in a house with me, and you should know something about the man you are in a house with. She didn't ask anything else. She went upstairs. In the dark hallway, she stopped outside Noah's door. She opened it a crack. Noah was asleep with his face in Benny's fur. Benny's one standing ear twitched at her. He did not bark. He watched her through the narrow gap and then, satisfied, put his chin back down on the pillow next to Noah's. She closed the door very quietly. She went to her own room. She lay down on the big bed in her borrowed clothes, and she looked at the ceiling, and she thought about a man with gray eyes standing by a fire, telling her about a brother he had not talked about in 30 years. She thought about the way he had held Noah, not like a man with children of his own, but like a man who knew the shape of a sleeping child and had once carried one, long ago, maybe to a hospital, maybe somewhere worse. She thought about option 3. Sleep came for her slower this time, but it came. Down in the sitting room, Adrien Voss stood at the fire for a long time after she had gone. He finished the amber drink in the glass. He did not pour himself another. At some point, well after midnight, he took a phone from his jacket, the phone that was not the kind of phone regular people carried, and he pressed a single button. Reyes, he said when the line picked up. Get the car ready for Tuesday. We're driving to Ohio. He listened. No, just me. But I want 2 of your men at the house every hour I'm gone. Nobody in or out of those gates except Okafor and Anna. If anything comes at the fence, you handle it, and then you call me. Understood. He listened again. Good. He hung up. He looked into the fire for another minute. Then he turned off the lamp, and the sitting room went dark except for the low orange pulse of the embers, and the old stone house settled into its quiet, and the rain, which had finally stopped sometime during dinner, did not come back that night. Saturday came dry and pale, the first day without rain in what felt like weeks. Lena woke up late, nearly 9, and for a second in that half-awake space, she didn't know where she was, and there was no fear in the not knowing. That alone was new. Then she remembered. She pulled her good hand down her face and lay still, counting the minutes before she had to stand up and decide the rest of her life. By the time she got downstairs, Noah was already in the kitchen, sitting on a stool at the island, eating toast cut into small squares. Benny was asleep on the floor under the stool, his chin on Noah's left sneaker. Adrien was at the stove again, and she wondered briefly whether the man ever slept or whether he just stood at a stove and thought until the sun came up. Morning, he said, without turning around. Morning. There's toast. Eggs, if you want them. Noah ate a piece of toast, didn't say anything else, but he pointed at the toast when I asked. So. He pointed. He pointed. She sat on the stool next to Noah's. The boy didn't look up, but he leaned, just a little, into her side, and she put her good arm around him and kissed the top of his head and closed her eyes for a second. How's the wrist? Adrien said. Throbs. Take the pills Okafor left. I took one. Take another at noon. Yes, sir. He made a sound that might have been a small laugh. It was the first laugh she had heard out of him. It went away fast. "I have to go up to the city this afternoon," he said. "Couple of hours. I'll be back by 6. Reyes will be on the property. So will 2 of his men. You won't see them unless you go outside, and even then, probably not. I wanted you to know." "Okay. There's a garden out the back. Walled. It's safe. If Noah wants air, take him there. Benny should probably come too, or he'll cry." "Okay." She wanted to ask him about option 3. She couldn't, not with Noah on the stool next to her. She just nodded and ate toast she mostly didn't taste, and watched Adrien move around the kitchen as if he had been moving around kitchens his whole life. When he left for the city at 1, she stood at the tall window in the sitting room and watched the black SUV go down the long gravel drive and through the gates. She watched the gates close behind it. Then she stood there another minute, looking at the empty driveway, and she realized, with a strange small shock, that she didn't want him to leave, and that realizing that was probably a thing she ought to be careful about. She took Noah out to the walled garden. It wasn't much of a garden, not this time of year. Wet grass, pruned hedges, a fountain that wasn't running, a stone bench under an iron trellis, where something climbing had gone dormant for the winter. Benny lost his mind. He tore back and forth across the lawn like a dog who had been released from prison. Noah stood at the edge of the grass with his small hand in hers, watching the dog. "You want to walk, buddy?" He nodded. They walked the perimeter. Noah did not say anything, but he did a thing he had not done in a year and a half. He let go of her hand and walked ahead. Only 4 steps. Then he came back. But he had gone, on his own, those 4 steps, and she had to look up at the sky so she wouldn't cry. A man in a dark coat was standing at the far corner of the garden, near the gate in the back wall. He didn't look at her. He had a cigarette in his cupped hand, and he was looking out at the woods beyond the wall, and he was so still that if he hadn't been breathing smoke, she might have missed him entirely. That would be Reyes, or one of his men. She didn't know and didn't ask. She just noted him, the way he noted her, and they went on minding their separate business in the same small garden. Back inside, in the little room off the kitchen, Noah went to the train set and started arranging the cars again. Benny flopped next to him and went to sleep. Lena sat on the child-sized chair, which was too small for her but the only chair in the room, and she watched her nephew, and for a long time she didn't think about anything. Then she thought about Adrien going to Ohio. She thought about it for an hour. At 4, she went up to her room, closed the door, and did something she hadn't done in a long time. She sat down on the edge of the bed and tried to think clearly. Option 1. Disappear. A cousin in a country she had never heard of. Noah growing up somewhere with a language she didn't speak. A school she couldn't help him with. A life paid for by a man she would never see again. Safe, maybe. But Noah had started talking to a dog 3 hours after he met the dog. What was he going to do in a country where nobody knew what the dog's name was? Option 2. Stay. Fortify. Wait. A house full of men with guns, a 4-year-old who is just starting to unclench his small hands, learning to flinch at the sound of a door. Option 3. Let Adrien do what Adrien was. Let him go to Ohio and do to Travis what Travis had been doing to women his entire miserable adult life, except that this time it would end it. She pressed her palms against her eyes. She had lived for a year and a half in a world where the law had failed, where the system had taken Maya's body out on a stretcher and sent her killer home in 11 months, where she had worked 12-hour shifts and watched her nephew not speak and told herself every night that maybe the world was fair sometimes, even if it hadn't been fair to them. She had stopped believing that. She had stopped believing it a long time before she admitted it. But there was a difference between not believing in the system and handing a man a reason to kill another man for you, wasn't there? She didn't know anymore. At 6 on the dot, she heard the gates open. She met Adrien in the front hall. He was taking his coat off. He looked tired in a way he had not looked this morning. Not sleepy tired, the other kind. 3, she said, before he had the coat off. He paused, with one arm still in a sleeve. 3, he repeated. But I have conditions. All right. Not here, not in the hall. Give me 10 minutes. Take 20. She went upstairs. She checked on Noah, who was in the playroom with Benny and Anna, who had come back on a Saturday for reasons that Lena did not entirely understand but had stopped questioning. Noah was drawing. He had a red crayon in his hand and he was making long, careful lines on a piece of paper. And he did not look up, but Anna smiled at Lena from her chair by the window and said softly, "He is doing good, Senora. He is doing good today." "Thank you, Anna. Can you stay a little longer? I have to talk to Mr. Voss." "As long as you need." She went back downstairs. Adrien was in the sitting room. He wasn't at the fireplace this time. He was sitting, finally, on the long couch with his elbows on his knees. He had a glass of water in his hand, not amber. She noticed that. She sat across from him, on the armchair. "My conditions," she said. 1. You don't kill him. Unless he makes you. Define makes me. If he draws a weapon. If there's somebody with him who draws a weapon. If not doing it means you or your men go home in a bag. Then you do what you have to do. I'm not going to ask you to die in a parking lot in Ohio for my feelings, but you don't go in there to kill him. You go in there to end it. Agreed. 2. You come back. You don't. Whatever happens in Ohio, you come back to this house. You don't disappear on me because you did a thing you don't want to be around me after. He looked at her for a long moment. That was very specific, he said. Yeah. You've thought about this. I've thought about this, Adrien. I know what I'm asking. I'm asking you to do a thing and then come back and sit across a kitchen island from me and my nephew and eat toast. That is the thing I am asking. I want you to tell me you can do it before you go. Because if you can't, if what you're going to do out there means you're not going to be the man who stood at the stove this morning, then we do option 1. I'll get on a plane. I'll go to the country I've never heard of. I mean it. His jaw tightened. He looked at the water in the glass. Lena, he said. Yeah. I can do that. Promise me. I'm promising you. She nodded. Her hand was shaking. She put it under her thigh to keep it still. 3, she said. I want to see him first. What? Travis? Before you go, I want a phone call. 1. I want to talk to him one time. Why? Because if I don't, for the rest of my life, I'm going to wonder if there was a word I could have said that would have ended this without you going to Ohio. And I'm not going to live with that wonder. If I call him and I say the word and he stops, then you don't go. If I call him and I say the word and he laughs at me and tells me what he's going to do to me and to Noah, then you go. And I don't wonder. Adrien was quiet for a very long time. That's smart, he said finally. I don't like it, but it's smart. Thank you. You'll use a phone I give you, not yours. And we'll do it on speaker. And whatever he says, you do not react. You do not cry. You do not beg. You say what you're going to say, and you hang up. Can you do that? Yes. Lena. I said yes. When do you want to do it? Now. I want it done now. If he's going to do something, if there's a word, I don't want you getting on the road tomorrow if there's a word. All right. He stood. He left the room. She sat on the armchair with her good hand pressed hard against her mouth, and she did not cry because crying was not what tonight was for. He came back with a phone, a small black one, the kind he carried. He handed it to her and sat down beside her on the arm of her chair, close enough that he could hear, but not so close that he was in her space. I dial, he said. You talk. Nod when you're ready. She took 3 long breaths. She nodded. He dialed. It rang twice. Yeah, Travis's voice. On a speaker, in a sitting room 40 miles out of the city, in a house built of stone. The same voice she had heard on her porch in Ohio 2 years ago, through a door she had just barred shut for the last time. The same voice she had heard through the window of a cracked car 3 nights ago. Her hand started shaking again. Adrien did not touch her. He did not need to. She felt him beside her, still and steady, and she squared her shoulders. Travis? A long pause. Lena? Yeah. Lena, where the hell are you? Where's... Shut up. Listen. There was a silence on the other end. She had not said a word like that to him, in a voice like that, ever. He didn't know what to do with it. I'm calling you one time, she said. One. This is the only time you will hear my voice for the rest of your life. Noah and I are somewhere. I'm not going to tell you where. We're safe. We're going to stay safe. Whatever you're planning, whatever you've been putting together the last 3 days, I know about it. I know about the calls. I know about Dale. I know about the man in West Virginia. You understand what I'm telling you. A longer silence. Who the hell told you? Doesn't matter. Lena. Baby. Don't. Lena, I was... Look, I was drunk, all right? I was drunk and I was upset. I saw you with the kid and I lost my head. It doesn't have to be like this. We can talk. We can... You were going to kill me with a tire iron. I wasn't going to. You were going to kill me with a tire iron. There is a man in this room with me who watched you raise it. I'm not interested in the version of events where you didn't. I am calling you to tell you one thing, Travis. If you walk away from this right now, if you get in your truck tomorrow and you drive back to your brother's and you never say my name again, never, not to your mother, not to your buddies, not to a bartender, not to the wall, you get to live. You get to be an old man someday. Are you hearing me? Is that a threat, Lena? Is that a threat from you, you little... I'm not making the threat, Travis. The threat is already made. I'm giving you a door out of it, one door, one time. Put him on. What? Put the man on. Whoever's there with you. Put him on the phone. I want to hear him. Adrien moved. Not toward the phone, toward her. He put a hand very lightly on the arm of the chair, not on her. He looked at her. She looked back. She held out the phone. He took it. He did not put it to his ear. He kept it on speaker. He spoke in a voice that was quieter than hers had been. Mr. Marin. Who is this? I'm the man from the parking lot. A long, slow silence. I know your wrist is still in a cast, Adrien said. I know you are staying at the Starlight Motor Lodge on Route 12, room 114. I know you ate dinner at the diner across the street at 1840 this evening, and that you had a phone call with a man named Wade at 1906, during which you told him you would be on the road by Monday. I am saying all of this so that you understand I am not bluffing. I am saying all of this so that you hear me very clearly when I say the next thing. If you leave that motel on Monday, Mr. Marin, it will not be to drive toward this woman. It will be to drive away from her. You will go south. You will find a place where you do not know anybody, and nobody knows you, and you will live quietly there for a long time. You will not call your brother about this again. You will not call Dale about this again. You will not call the number in West Virginia about this again. If any of those 3 phones ring about her name, I will know, and I will come. I am not your ex-girlfriend, Mr. Marin. You cannot hit me with a tire iron. There is no version of the next week that ends with you getting what you want. There is only a version where you take the door that is being offered to you right now by the woman whose life you tried to end, and you walk through it, and you disappear. Do you understand me? You don't know who you're... I know exactly who I'm talking to. Say you understand, Mr. Marin. Breathing on the other end. Fast. Shallow. Yeah. Yeah, what? I understand. Good night, Mr. Marin. Adrien pressed the red button. He set the phone down on the arm of the chair. He did not look at Lena for a moment. When he did, his eyes were tired. He's lying, he said. I know. He'll be in his truck by Sunday morning. He'll reach out to the West Virginia number tonight. I know. I have to go tomorrow. I know. She reached out with her good hand and took his. She had not planned to. She did not think about it. She just did it. His hand was warm and dry and a little rougher than she had expected. He went very still, the way a man goes still when a deer steps out of a wood near him, afraid to spook it. Come back, she said. I will. Promise. I promised you already, Lena. Promise again. I promise. She held his hand for another second. Then she let go. He left the room. She sat on the armchair by herself for a long time, listening to the fire. And eventually she got up and went upstairs. And she sat on the floor of Noah's room while he slept, her back against the bed. And she watched Benny breathe in and out against her nephew's ribs. She did not sleep in her own bed that night. She slept on the floor beside Noah's, with a throw pillow under her head, and she kept one hand on the edge of the bed frame so if he stirred, she would know. Adrien left at 5 in the morning. She did not come down to see him off. That had been his request, made the night before in a quiet voice at the foot of the stairs. He had said, "If you come down at 5 a.m. to watch me drive out, you're going to carry the picture of that car leaving all day. Don't. Let me just go." And she had nodded, and she had not come down at 5 a.m. But she had been awake. She had heard the soft closing of the back door, and the low sound of the engine starting, and the crunch of the gravel under the tires, and the far metallic whisper of the gates opening and then closing. After that, the house had been quiet, and the quiet had been a new kind of quiet, and she had lain there in the dark and thought about the distance between the house and Ohio, and about all the things a man could become in that distance. Sunday went slow. Noah ate. Noah drew. Noah followed Benny around the house. He said 2 more words, more, when he wanted more jam on his toast, and okay, when Anna asked him if he wanted to come help her fold towels in the laundry. Each word was small. Each one put something back in Lena's chest that had been hollow for 14 months. Anna saw Lena watching Noah and said, in her soft way, "He is coming back, Senora." "Noah?" "Yes, but I did not only mean the boy." Lena looked at her. Anna's hands kept folding towels. She did not look up. She did not need to. "Senora Lena," Anna said, "I have worked in this house 5 years. I have seen Mr. Voss in many kinds of weather. He went to this Ohio because he decided to, not because you asked. He was going to go whether you asked or not. If it had not been this thing, it would have been another thing. Some men, when they decide a thing, they go. You understand?" "I understand. So do not sit here for the next day carrying it like it is yours. It is his. He is a grown man. He will come back or he will not come back, but it was not you who put him in the car. It was him." Lena looked at her for a long moment. "Anna." "Yes." "Has he done this before?" "What he's doing now, for other people." Anna folded another towel. "Not for other women," she said. "For people, yes. For himself, yes. For a woman and a child, no. This is the first time." She set the folded towel on the stack. "That is why I am telling you not to carry it," she said. "Because he is not carrying it as a job. And when a man like him does a thing that is not a job, he comes back changed. It is best if, when he comes back, the woman he comes back to is not carrying his weight. She has her own." Lena did not know what to say to that. She helped with the towels. By Sunday night, her chest was so tight she could barely breathe. Adrien did not call. Adrien had told her, at the foot of the stairs, that he would not call until it was done, because if he called before it was done and she heard something in his voice, she would spend the rest of her life hearing that thing in his voice. He had said, "No news is just no news. Don't read it. Put the phone in a drawer." She had not put the phone in a drawer. At 11, she put the phone in a drawer. At 11:10, she took it out of the drawer and checked it. At 11:12, she put it back in the drawer and closed the drawer, hard, and went to bed. She did not sleep. She thought, in the dark, about what Adrien had said, and about what Anna had said, and about a boy who had said hi to a dog 4 days ago. She thought about the feeling of his hand in hers in the sitting room. She thought about the fact that she did not actually know this man, and that the portion of her life that had been spent with him would still, even tonight, fit inside a long weekend. She thought about how that did not matter. The body kept a different clock than the head. The body knew a safe voice when it heard one. The body knew a steady hand when a steady hand helped it up off a wet parking lot. The body had decided, somewhere in the last 4 days, that it was willing to sleep in a house that belonged to Adrien Voss. The head was going to have to catch up. Monday morning, no call. Monday noon, no call. She made lunch for Noah. She ate none of hers. Anna watched her not eat and did not say anything. Monday afternoon. A car came up the drive. Her heart tried to climb out of her throat. It wasn't the black SUV. It was a smaller, older car. A doctor's car. Okafor. He came in, took off his coat, checked her wrist, checked her ribs, checked her eye, which was now the color of weak tea, and told her she was healing well. He told her she had not slept, and she should. He told her Noah looked like a different child. He asked, with the kind of care older men used when they asked hard things, how she was holding up. "He's in Ohio," she said. I am aware. He said he would call when it was done. Yes. He hasn't called. Okafor sat down across from her at the kitchen island. He folded his hands. Lena, he said. May I tell you a thing about Mr. Voss? Please. When he does what he is doing now, he does not use phones he can be called back on. So you could not have called him if you had wanted to. This is not because he does not want to hear from you. It is because he does not want anyone else to hear from him, and he has always been careful. I have worked with him a long time. In all of that time, I have never lost a day to not knowing where he was. He does what he says he will do. If he said he will call when it is done, he will call when it is done. It is not a question of character. It is a question of timing. So what's the timing? I do not know. I would guess tonight or tomorrow morning. These things take as long as they take. I have learned not to watch the clock. How do you do that? He smiled. It was a small, thin smile. Badly, he said. For 11 years. Badly. He left before dinner, Monday evening. The phone did not ring. She sat with Noah in the playroom until he fell asleep on the rug with Benny, and then she carried him to bed, one-armed because her good arm was the only arm she had, and Anna helped her get him under the covers. She stood in his doorway after Anna had gone home. The house was bigger in the dark than it was in the daylight. She walked through every room on the first floor. She turned lights on and did not turn them off. If Adrien came back tonight, she wanted him to come back to a house with lights on. At 10:40, she was in the sitting room pretending to read a book whose words she was not registering when the phone in her pocket rang. Not the phone in the drawer, the phone in her pocket. It was a number she did not know. She answered it on the first ring. Hello? It's me. Just 2 words. She had not known, until she heard them, how much she had been holding. Her shoulders came down, her eyes filled. She sat down on the couch and put one hand over her face. Adrien, I'm okay. It's done. I'm driving back. I'll be in around 6 a.m. if the road holds. Is he? A long pause. He's alive. Oh, thank... She stopped. She didn't know what to think. She just let the word be the word. Lena. Yeah. It got complicated. How complicated? Not on the phone. Adrien, nothing you need to carry tonight. Just go to bed. I'll tell you everything in the morning. I will tell you everything, all of it. I'm not going to have you finding things out piece by piece, but not tonight. Tonight, sleep. Are you hurt? A pause that was half a second too long. Nothing Okafor can't fix. Her eyes closed. Please drive carefully. I will. Adrien. Yeah. Thank you. The line was quiet for a moment. Don't thank me yet, he said. Go to sleep. He hung up. She sat on the couch in the sitting room for a while with the phone in her lap. She did not cry because the relief was too big for crying, a thing too large to fit through a set of tear ducts. She just sat and breathed and let the house be warm around her. Then she got up and she turned off the lights she had turned on, one by one, walking through each room like a lighthouse keeper putting a lighthouse to bed, and she went upstairs. She slept that night for 8 straight hours. It had been 2 years since she had slept 8 straight hours. At 6:15, she heard the gates. She was already up. She was already dressed, in a sweater of her own and the jeans that Anna had run through the wash yesterday. She went down the stairs barefoot, not running, but not walking either. Noah was still asleep. Benny was still asleep. She crossed the front hall as the back door opened. Adrien came in on his own legs, which she clocked first because it was the thing she had been most afraid of. He looked bad. That was the honest word. He looked bad. There was a butterfly bandage over his left eyebrow. His knuckles on both hands were raw. He was moving carefully, like a man whose ribs were not happy with him. His coat had a tear at the shoulder that had been there, that she remembered, that morning. No, there was a new tear, small, on the right side. And he had a cut at the corner of his mouth that he had not had on Sunday morning. She stopped about 6 feet from him. She did not run to him. She did not throw herself at him. That was not the kind of woman she was, and she suspected it was not the kind of man he was either. How bad? She said. 2 cracked ribs, stitches on the eyebrow, Okafor's coming at 7. A tooth I'm going to lose on the left side in the back. Nothing permanent, nothing that walks with me into next month. And him. Adrien set his keys on the hall table. He looked at her. Alive, he said. As promised, he had 4 men with him, not 3, which was my mistake. The 4th man was the one from West Virginia. It was his idea to meet early, not your ex's, which was a smart idea on his part because it almost worked. We fought in the parking lot of a motel I have not previously seen. 2 of them are in a hospital under names that are not their names. One of them is in the trunk of a car I will not be seeing again, and he is going to wake up in a field in Indiana in about 6 hours, and when he does, he is going to be given a choice about the rest of his life. Your ex is in a hotel room, not the motel, a different hotel room, with 2 broken fingers and a clear understanding of what happens if he picks up a phone to anyone about you in the next 10 years. I do not think he will. I could be wrong. I have been wrong before. The man from West Virginia. He is with me, in the car. He is going to be a long conversation with some people I know tomorrow, and after that, he is also going to disappear from your life. He will be given the same choice as the man in Indiana. And you. And me. She closed the distance between them. Not all of it. Enough to put her good hand very lightly against the side of his jaw, on the side without the cut. She did not kiss him. She did not hug him. She just touched him there for a moment, the way you touched a thing to make sure it was real. You came back, she said. I said I would. Yeah, but a lot of people say that. I'm not a lot of people. She almost laughed. She didn't. She took her hand away. Go see Okafor, she said. Go do whatever you have to do. Then come eat. I'll make you eggs. You've made me eggs 4 times. I'm going to make you eggs. Lena. Yeah. You don't have to. Adrien, I'm going to make you eggs. He looked at her for a long moment. Okay, he said. He went down the back hallway, the way he had gone that first night with Noah in his arms. She went into the kitchen. She turned on the coffee maker. She opened the fridge, which someone had stocked, as always, without her asking. She took out the eggs. She cracked 6 of them into a bowl with her good hand. She did a bad job. There were pieces of shell in the bowl. She got most of them out. A couple she didn't. Adrien would eat them anyway. He would not say anything about the shells. That was the kind of man he was, and she had known it in 4 days, which was not the kind of knowing she'd believed in before last Thursday. She whisked the eggs. The fork made a small, domestic, ordinary sound against the bowl. Outside, the sky had gone from black to charcoal to a pale, steady gray. The first thin wash of light was coming through the kitchen window. Somewhere upstairs, she heard the floorboards creak. Noah, awake, walking barefoot, and then the softer padding of a small dog following him down the hall. Lena Cross, who 3 days ago had slept on a floor with her hand on a bed frame, made breakfast for a man who had driven to Ohio and come back. She did not for those few minutes think about what came next. She did not think about the man in the car outside, or about the calls that would have to be made, or about the new shape her life had taken in under a week. She just broke eggs and watched the sky go gray, and waited for the sound of steps in the hall. The eggs were halfway done when Noah came into the kitchen. He walked in slow, the way he always walked into rooms, like he was checking with each step that the floor would hold him. Benny was right behind him, nails clicking on the wood. Noah stopped in the doorway and looked around for Adrien before he looked for Lena, and she saw it, and it did a small warm thing in her chest and a small afraid thing at the same time. He's with the doctor, buddy. He'll be in a minute. Noah walked over to the island and climbed up on his stool without a word. He looked at the bowl of eggs. He looked at her hand in the brace. Then he looked back at her face, and he said, in his small, careful voice, "You need help?" She almost dropped the whisk. It was a full sentence. It was a question. It was the longest thing he had said in 14 months. She did not make a big deal of it. She had promised herself she would not make a big deal of it whenever it came because making a big deal was the fastest way to make a small boy go quiet again. "Yeah, buddy, I kinda do." She pushed the bowl toward him a little. "You want a whisk? 2 hands, slow circles, don't splash." He took the fork from her. He whisked. Badly. Slowly. Seriously. A small yellow drop came up out of the bowl and landed on the marble, and he looked at it, alarmed. And she said, "That's okay. That happens to everybody." And he went back to whisking. Adrien came in about 2 minutes later. He had a fresh white square of tape over his eyebrow, and he was moving like a man whose ribs had been told very firmly to hush. He stopped in the doorway when he saw Noah on the stool with the fork. He didn't say anything. He looked at Lena. She shook her head very slightly. Don't. He gave a small nod. He walked over to the coffee pot. Morning, bud, he said, casual, like it was any morning. Noah did not answer with words, but he lifted the fork out of the bowl and held it up a little, showing Adrien what he was doing. And Adrien said, Good job. Keep going. Those are going to be the best eggs this kitchen has ever seen. Noah smiled. It was a small thing, a corner of his mouth. But Lena, turning to the stove so neither of them would see her face, had to put her good hand flat against the counter for a second before she could pick up the pan. They ate. She cooked the eggs badly. They were a little too dry on one side and a little too wet on the other. Adrien ate every bite of his, including at least 2 small pieces of shell she saw him crunch and pretend he hadn't. Noah ate half a piece of toast and 2 bites of egg, which was a feast by his standards. Benny sat under the stool, vigilant, ready to accept any tribute. None came. After Noah was done, Anna came in. Early, she had not been scheduled for Tuesday, but she had come anyway because Anna had decided, apparently without being asked, that this was a house that now needed a lot more Anna in it. She took one look at Adrien's face and clucked her tongue. Mr. Voss. Good morning, Anna. Dr. Okafor was in the office. He was. You let him sew your face back on the outside of a kitchen? He offered. Anna said, which was the sound she made when she was done with a conversation that was going to go nowhere. Come, mijo. Let us go find Benny a tennis ball. Your tia and Mr. Voss are going to talk about boring grown-up things now. Noah looked at Lena. Lena nodded. Noah slid off his stool, took Anna's hand, took her hand, which was a thing he had not done with anyone but Lena in a year and a half, and went off to find a tennis ball. When they were gone, the kitchen was very quiet. Adrien set his coffee down. He looked at her across the island. I told you I'd tell you everything this morning, he said. I remember. You sure? Tell me, he told her. He told her about the drive to Ohio, the men in West Virginia, how Reyes had found them through a mechanic who owed somebody a favor. He told her about the meeting that Travis had arranged at a motel on the edge of a town she had never heard of, and about how the 4th man had been waiting in the room next to Travis's, which had almost been the thing that ended it badly. He told her about the fight, quickly, not dressing it up, not making it small either. He told her about the choices he had made in that parking lot, and about one he had not made because a younger version of himself would have made it, and he had decided, standing over the man from West Virginia with a piece of rebar in his hand, that he was not going to be that younger version anymore. Not tonight, not in a parking lot in Ohio for a woman he had known 5 days. He told her about this drive back, about pulling over twice to make sure nothing had ruptured under his shirt, about sitting in the front seat of the SUV in the dark on the side of a county road at 2 a.m. with the engine off, counting his own heartbeats until they slowed down. She listened. She did not interrupt. When he was done, she was quiet for a while. The man in the trunk, she said finally. Reyes picked him up an hour ago. He's gone. Gone. He's alive, Lena. I told you. I kept the promise. What happens to him? Adrien looked at his coffee. There's a man in North Carolina, he said. Runs call it a halfway place, for people who decided they were done. He takes them in, no questions, and he puts them to work. Real work. Manual. Tires them out so they don't have energy left for bad ideas. Some of them end up finding something on the other side of it. Some of them don't. Our friend from West Virginia is going to be there by tomorrow night. He's going to be offered a choice. He can take the work and be a new man with a new name in a new state, and nobody will ever hear from him again. Or he cannot take it. And if he doesn't take it, he is on his own the rest of his life. And his life is going to be shorter than he is hoping, because he has enemies besides me. He does not know it yet, but the choice is a gift. And Travis? Adrien met her eyes. Travis got a different version of the gift. Meaning I told him that if he so much as thinks about you hard enough that I hear about it, I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish the conversation we started. And I told him what the conversation would look like. I was specific. I do not think he is going to make me come back, Lena. I think he is going to go south, and he is going to drink, and he is going to become a small, sad man in a bar somewhere. And in 10 years he is going to die of something that is nobody's fault but his. She let out a breath she had been holding for 5 days. You believe that? I do. Why? Because I have seen that kind of man before. The stubbornness only goes so far. When you take the target away from him and you scare him enough, he collapses inward. He doesn't become a different man. He just becomes a smaller version of the one he already was. She nodded. She did not say anything for a long time. Then she said, Adrien? Yeah. I want to know what you did before this. He stilled. Lena, not the details. I don't need the details. I need the shape of it. The shape. Are you a bad man? He looked at her for a long, long time. I have done bad things, he said. I have done them for money, a long time ago, when I was young and angry. I have done them for people I was afraid of, which is not a good reason, but a real one. And I have done them for reasons I thought at the time were noble, which turned out not to be. For the last 5 years, I have mostly not done them. I have run businesses, I have paid taxes on some of them, I have read books, I have been alone. I would not call myself a good man, Lena, but I would call myself a man who is trying to be a less bad one, and some days is making progress, and some days is not. That's fair, she said. Is it? It's more than most people would say, honestly. Most people would lie. Yeah. She reached across the island and put her good hand on his, briefly. Not romance. Not yet. Just contact. An acknowledgement. His knuckles were split. She covered them for a second and let go. I'm going to go sit with Noah for a while, she said. You should sleep. I'm all right. Adrien, you're swaying. I am not swaying. You're swaying. Go to bed. The house isn't going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Anna's here. Reyes's men are here. Okafor will come check on you in 4 hours. Go to bed. He looked at her. He almost smiled. He did not quite. All right, he said. He went. She watched him go down the hall and up the stairs, one careful step at a time, and she stood at the kitchen island for a minute after he was gone, with her hand on the marble where his hand had been, and she thought, very clearly, very honestly, without any of the noise that usually came with thinking about men, I'm going to have to be careful about this. I'm going to have to be careful because it is very fast, and I am very tired, and my body has been alone a long time, and none of that is a reason to fall into something. And then she thought, and also, if I am careful and slow and honest, maybe it's all right. Maybe it's all right that it's fast. The night I met him, I was already going to die. Time is different after that. She did not solve the question in her head. She went to find Noah. The days settled, in the way days do when nothing is trying to kill you. A week passed, then another. Her wrist stopped throbbing and started just aching. The bruises on her face went from purple to green to yellow to nothing. Okafor came every few days to check on Adrien, who was healing slower than he wanted to heal, which Okafor seemed to find funny in a dry way that made Lena like him even more. Noah talked more, not all at once, not in a flood. A word, then a phrase, then a short sentence, then, one night at dinner, an entire question. Benny can sleep in my bed forever? That was long enough to make Anna put down her fork and press a hand against her chest like she had been struck there. After that it came faster. Not constant. He was still a quiet child. He would always be a quiet child, Lena suspected. But he was a child who had words again, and who used them, and who sometimes laughed with the whole of his small body when Benny did something ridiculous. Adrien, for his part, was around more than Lena would have expected. He worked. Phone calls in the mornings, the study door closed, but the rest of the day, he was in the house. He read a lot. He cooked more than she did, which she was not going to pretend bothered her. He played with Noah in his own careful way, not horsing around, nothing roughhousing, just sitting with him on the floor of the playroom and building things, towers out of wooden blocks, roads out of book spines. A city out of couch cushions, one Sunday afternoon, that took up the entire sitting room and that Adrien, in a moment that surprised Lena more than she wanted to admit, had not dismantled for 2 days because Noah had asked him, shyly, "Can we keep it?" She watched him with her nephew sometimes from a doorway when he did not know she was watching, She watched the careful way he moved around the boy. She watched him ask before he touched, "Can I pick this up, buddy? Can I show you this?" The way he did it with her, the same habit, the same patience. She watched him not try to be a father. That was the thing that she noticed most. Some men, when they got near a kid who didn't have one, rushed at the empty space, tried to fill it, tried to be the thing. Adrien didn't do that. Adrien stayed beside Noah, not in front of him. He was an adult who was there. That was all he offered. And Noah, who had decided a long time ago that adults mostly broke things, took the offer cautiously, piece by piece, as if testing each step. One night, it must have been the third week, Noah had a nightmare. Lena heard him through the wall, a small, sharp cry, and then nothing. She was up before she was all the way awake, across the bathroom and into his room, and he was sitting up in bed with his eyes open, clutching his rabbit, not crying, just staring at the dark with the look she had not seen on his face in a while. The look from the kitchen in Ohio, the frozen look, the "I am watching a thing and I cannot make it stop" look. "Hey, buddy. Hey, it's okay. Look at me. Look at me. It's Aunt Lena. It's okay." He did not look at her. "Mom," he said. Her heart cracked straight down the middle. "Yeah, sweetheart," she whispered. I know. It's okay. It was a dream. Mommy's not here anymore, buddy. But I'm here. I'm here. Come here. Come here to me." She pulled him into her lap. He was not crying, and that was almost worse than crying, because he had learned a long time ago not to cry. He sat in her lap, rigid, his rabbit against his chin. And Adrien, without her having called him, was in the doorway. He didn't come in. He stood in the frame with one hand on the jamb, in a t-shirt and the sweatpants he slept in, his hair sticking up on one side, and he looked at her across the dim room. "What do you need?" he said quietly. "I don't know. Water?" "Water would be good." He went. He came back a minute later with a small glass. He came into the room this time. He knelt down by the bed so he was at Noah's eye level, and he held out the water, but he did not push it on the boy. "Hey, kiddo, when I have a bad dream, sometimes I drink a little bit of water. It makes the dream wash out of my mouth. You want to try?" Noah looked at him. For a long second, he didn't do anything. Then he took the glass in two hands, and he took one small sip and another, and he said, in the smallest, most serious voice, "The bad man was in the kitchen." Lena went very still. Adrien did not react. He stayed at eye level with Noah. "Yeah?" he said. "The bad man from before?" Noah nodded. "He's not here, kiddo," Adrien said. "He's a long way away. He can't come here." "How do you know?" Lena felt the question like a hand on her chest. Adrien did not hesitate. "Because I went to where he was," he said, "and I told him that he's not allowed to come here anymore, and he is not going to come here anymore." Noah looked at him for a long time. "Did you use your mean voice?" Adrien almost smiled. He did not quite. "I used my mean voice." "Okay," Noah said. He took another sip of water. He looked, suddenly, very tired. The specific tired of a 4-year-old coming down off of fear. He leaned into Lena, his head against her collarbone. "Okay. You want me to sit in the chair over there for a while?" Adrien asked. "Until you fall asleep?" Noah nodded. So Adrien went to the low chair by the window, and he sat there, in his t-shirt and sweatpants, with his split knuckles on his knees, and he watched a 4-year-old fall back to sleep against his aunt's shoulder. He did not take out a phone. He did not look at his watch. He sat. It took Noah about 15 minutes to go under. His weight got heavier against Lena's chest. His breathing evened out. His small fist loosened around the neck of the rabbit. Lena laid him down, very carefully, and pulled the blanket up. Benny, who had slept through all of this, which was the most Benny thing in the world, rearranged himself against Noah's side. Lena tiptoed to the door. Adrien followed. They stood in the hallway. The hallway was dark except for the low band of the nightlight along the baseboard. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't." "Adrien, I mean it. Don't thank me for that. I sat in a chair. You said the right thing. You didn't lie to him. You didn't promise something you couldn't promise. You told him a true thing in a way a little kid could hold on to. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" He looked at her in the dim hallway. She looked back. There was a second, a long, slow second, where it would have been the most natural thing in the world to close the distance. They were a foot apart. Her hand was almost against his chest. His eyes had dropped, for half a heartbeat, to her mouth. Neither of them moved. "Good night," she said softly. "Good night." She went back into Noah's room. She did not go back to her own bed that night. She slept on the floor again, on a pile of pillows, with her hand on the edge of the bed frame. In the morning, Adrien did not mention the hallway. Neither did she. But something between them had tipped, one notch, and they both knew it. Well, 6 weeks after the parking lot, the thing happened that Lena had been afraid of every night and had almost stopped being afraid of during the day. It was a Thursday, a clear, cold evening. She and Adrien were on the back porch. Noah and Benny were inside with Anna. Adrien was drinking coffee. Lena had a mug of tea. They were not talking. They were doing a thing that had become a thing in the last few weeks, sitting on the porch after dinner and not talking, in the particular comfortable way that she had not known she could do with a man. The first sound was not a sound she could place right away, a soft, high snap. From the tree line, maybe 100 yards out beyond the wall. Adrien's head moved half an inch. Then the stone of the porch column next to his head exploded. She didn't understand for about a second. It was like the world had skipped a frame. There was stone dust in the air. There was a small dark hole in the column at the exact level where Adrien's head had been a quarter second ago. Adrien moved faster than she knew a man could move. His coffee cup went flying. His arm came across her chest and he took her down with him, not gently, onto the porch boards behind the low stone wall of the porch railing. He was already rolling, already pulling her along, already shouting, not loud, not a scream, a clear, sharp call. "Reyes, front tree line." 2 more snaps. The porch behind them. A flower pot shattered. "Crawl," he said, low in her ear. "Into the house. Go. Go, Lena. Go." She crawled. She went on her hand and her forearm, her broken one was still not all the way right, and her knees across the porch boards, through the French doors, into the house. Her whole body had gone cold. She could hear Adrien moving behind her. She could hear from the front of the property a shout and then the spitting clatter of other guns. Not the sharp snaps from the trees. Something heavier, closer, Reyes's men. And she understood that a fight had started, and she was in the middle of it, and Noah was inside. Noah. She got up to a crouch in the living room and she ran. "Anna! Anna!" Anna came out of the playroom with Noah already in her arms and Benny at her heels. "Senora! Basement! Now! 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 Now!" Adrien appeared behind them in the hall, moving fast, a pistol in his hand that he had not been carrying 5 minutes ago. He did not look surprised. He did not look afraid. He looked like a man who had been waiting for this, and the fact that he had been waiting for it was its own kind of cold. "Down the back stairs," he said. "All 4 of you. Safe room. Code is 6229. Lock it from the inside. Do not come out for anyone who is not me or Reyes. If somebody tells you they're me and they're not me, do not open the door. I'll say my brother's name. I'll say it first thing. Then you open it. Your brother's Daniel. His name was Daniel. Go." She grabbed Noah from Anna. She ran. Down the back stairs. Anna right behind her. Benny somewhere in the commotion. Into a hallway she had not known existed behind a bookshelf that pivoted open when Adrien had shown her, in the second week, how to get into it. A door at the end. A keypad. Her fingers were shaking so badly she got the code wrong on the first try. She got it right on the second. The door swung open. A small concrete-walled room. A light that came on when the door moved. A bench. A cot. A rack of bottled water. A phone on the wall. They went in. She pushed the door shut. It sealed with a heavy, final sound. Noah was whimpering. Not crying. Still not crying, but whimpering. A small animal noise from the back of his throat. Benny was on Anna's feet, pressed against her shins, trembling. Anna was praying under her breath in Spanish, the low, steady rhythm of it filling the small room. Lena sat down on the cot. She pulled Noah into her lap. She pressed her lips against his hair and she whispered the same thing over and over. "I've got you. I've got you. I've got you. I've got you." The walls were thick enough that she could not hear the gunfire from inside, but she could feel, now and again, small distant thuds through the concrete. Someone had come to their house to kill them. She did not know who. She did not, in that moment, need to know. That could come later, if there was a later. Time did a thing in the safe room that she had not known time could do. It stretched. It folded. She had no sense of whether 5 minutes had passed or 30. Her heart hammered so hard against Noah's back that she was afraid he would feel it and be more scared. Anna was still praying. Benny, at some point, put his head on Lena's foot and went very still, which was not like Benny at all. A knock at the door. 3 knocks. Then 2. Then 1. Lena. Adrien's voice, muffled by the steel. Daniel. My brother's name was Daniel. Open the door. She got up. Her legs wanted to not hold her. She made them hold her. She punched the code. The door swung open. Adrien was in the hallway. He was alive. He was not visibly bleeding in any new way. He had the gun at his side, not pointed at anything. Reyes took 2 of them alive, he said. One of them is talking. It wasn't Travis. Travis is still in his hotel. We're checking again. It was the man from West Virginia. Or rather, it was the man from West Virginia's people. Apparently I was not as convincing with him as I thought I was. Apparently he had made some calls before we took him. Apparently I have to be better at my job. Are any of your men? Miguel is hit. Shoulder. He'll live. Okafor is on his way. The rest of them are fine. The house is clear. The property is clear. We have 4 of them dead, 2 alive. I have about 40 minutes before the next wave gets here. The next wave. Lena, listen to me. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. Noah was still in her arms. Anna was behind her. Listen to me, he said. They know where this house is. They came here tonight with 6 men. They'll come back with 16. I can fight 16, but I can't fight 16 and keep your nephew alive at the same time. I can't fight 16 and keep Anna alive. I can't fight 16 and keep you alive. And you are my only job tonight. Do you hear me? Yes. We're leaving, all of us. Tonight. Now. I have a plan for this. I have had a plan for this for 5 years in case I ever needed it, and I have never needed it before. And I am using it now, for you. Do you trust me? She did not even think about it. Yes. Anna. Yes, Mr. Voss. You have a sister in Seattle. I'm putting you on a plane in 3 hours. New papers. Enough money to start over. I know this is not what you wanted. I'm sorry. Anna's eyes filled. She did not argue. Yes, sir. Reyes goes with his men to a place I have arranged. He'll be all right. Okafor goes home. They don't know Okafor. Benny goes with us because if I try to leave that dog behind, I have a feeling this boy is going to start screaming in a way none of us can handle. Noah, against Lena's shoulder, looked up. Benny comes, he said clearly. Adrien looked at him. Adrien's face did something very small. Benny comes, he said. I promise, kid. He stood. Lena, pack what you can carry in 1 bag. Warm clothes. Anything that matters. 20 minutes. I know that's not enough. That's what we have. Where are we going? He looked at her. Away from here, he said. To a coast. I'll tell you when we're in the car. The less any of you know right now, the better, because if somebody gets stopped, somebody will be asked. 20 minutes. Go. She went. She went upstairs and she looked at the room she had been living in for almost 2 months. The soft bed and the big windows and the good comforter, and she knew very clearly that she was never coming back to this room. She threw clothes into a duffel, hers, Noah's. She took the small stuffed rabbit. She took the red coat. She took a framed photograph of Maya from her bedside, the only one she had, and she did not stop to look at it. In his room, Noah stood in the doorway and watched her pack for him. He did not cry. He had not cried during any of it, which was maybe the part that would haunt her later. He was 4 years old and he had been through a gunfight, and he was not crying, and she did not know whether to be proud or afraid. Are we going somewhere new, buddy? Yes. You okay? He thought about it. Benny comes, he said. Benny comes. Then okay. Downstairs, Adrien was in the study. Drawers were open. A small safe was open. He was putting things into a black leather bag. Papers. A couple of passports that she was very carefully not going to ask about. Stacks of cash that she was very carefully not going to count. He closed the safe. He closed the bag. He looked around the room, at the books on the walls, at the chair by the window, at the desk he had sat at every morning for 5 years. She watched him do it. He did not linger. He did not stand for a long time. He just took one slow look, The way a man looked at a room he was not coming back to, and then he closed the study door behind him, and he did not look at it again. In the front hall, Reyes was already waiting by the open door. He had a rifle. He was bleeding from a scrape on his forehead. He nodded at Lena and Anna as they came down the stairs, and he did not say anything. Adrien looked at him. "Take care of them," Reyes said quietly. "I will." "Be careful, Jefe." "You too." They did not embrace. They clasped forearms briefly. Two men who had worked together a long time, saying goodbye without saying it. Then Adrien turned. "In the car, all of you, now." They went out into the cold. The SU-5 was already running. Adrien put Anna in the front seat. He put Noah in the back with Lena, with Benny between them. He got in the driver's seat. He reached across, and for the first time since the parking lot, he put his hand over Lena's hand, covered it completely, briefly. A grounding touch. Not a promise, just a, "we are doing this together." Then he took his hand back. He put the car in drive. And the big iron gates, which had opened for Lena Cross for the first time 2 months ago, opened one more time. The SUV rolled through. They closed behind them, and Adrien Voss did not look in the rearview mirror. Not once, as the old stone house fell away behind them and the long dark road opened up ahead. And somewhere up in the house he was leaving, the lamp he had lit that afternoon was still burning in the sitting room, and no one was going to turn it off. They drove through the night. Nobody spoke for the first hour. Benny was asleep on the seat between Lena and Noah within 10 minutes, twitching in dog dreams, which under different circumstances would have been funny. Noah watched the window. He did not ask where they were going. He did not ask when they would stop. He held Lena's good hand and he watched the dark pass, and every so often his small fingers tightened on hers like he was checking to make sure she was still there. Anna, in the front, was silent. Adrien drove. His eyes moved between the road and the mirrors the way a man's eyes moved when he had taught himself, a long time ago, to watch for things behind him. Around 1 in the morning, they pulled into a gas station off the interstate that was lit up too bright for the empty parking lot. Adrien filled the tank, went inside, and came back with a bag of diner sandwiches and 4 bottles of water and a small juice box with a cartoon lion on it, which he handed to Noah in the back seat without a word. Noah took it with both hands and looked at it like it was the strangest and most wonderful object in the world, and he said, "Thank you," in his careful voice, and Adrien made a sound that was almost a laugh, and then they were driving again. They put Anna on a plane at 5 a.m. at a small regional airport Lena had never heard of. The goodbye happened fast, the way hard goodbyes always do. Anna hugged Lena first, and she hugged her hard, the way a woman hugged another woman when she was not sure she was going to see her again, but was not going to say so out loud. Then she knelt down and cupped Noah's face in her hands and said, "Mi amor, you keep talking. You hear me? You keep talking. You have so many words. Do not lose them again." And Noah nodded and said, "Okay." And then, solemnly, "Bye, Anna." And Anna turned her face away fast so he wouldn't see what it did. Adrien walked her to the doors of the small terminal. They stood there for a minute, talking about things Lena could not hear. He put a thick white envelope into her hands. She did not open it. She shook her head once at something he said. He shook his head back. Then she went through the doors, and she did not turn around, because turning around would have cost her something she didn't have right then. Adrien came back to the SUV. He got in. He put his hands on the wheel and sat there for a moment with his eyes closed before he turned the key. "Where now?" Lena said gently. "Southwest, then a different car, then a plane, then another car, then a town you've never heard of. It's going to be a long 3 days, Lena. I'm sorry in advance." "We're here," she said. "Drive." He drove. The 3 days that followed were the strangest 3 days of Lena Cross's life, and she had had a few contenders. They slept in a motel once, all 3 of them, and Benny in one room with 2 beds, Adrien on a cot by the door. They slept once in the back of a new car, not the SUV, a beat-up gray sedan that looked like nothing and ran like everything, a car Adrien had picked up from a garage where nobody had asked his name. They got on a small plane at a small airfield, with pilots who also did not ask names, and they landed at another small airfield in a state she did not see the sign for. They got in another car. That car took them, late on the 3rd night, down a 2-lane road that wound along the edge of a coast, past houses with porches and wind chimes and old trucks in the driveways, until the road narrowed and the houses got farther apart, and the smell coming through the cracked window turned into something Lena had never properly smelled in her life: salt. "Is that the ocean?" Noah said in the back seat. "Yeah, buddy. Can I see it?" "Tomorrow. It'll still be there tomorrow." Adrien pulled into a driveway that was more of a gravel track. The house at the end of it was small. 2 stories, weathered cedar siding, a wraparound porch that sagged a little on the north side. A tin roof. A single light was on above the front door. He killed the engine. Nobody moved. "This is it?" Lena said. "This is it." "Who does it belong to?" "Me. On paper. Under a name that's not mine. I bought it 6 years ago. I have never slept a night in it. I came here twice to check on it. A woman in town keeps an eye on it for a small amount every month, and she doesn't know anything about me. As of tonight, it belongs to the 3 of us." "4, said Noah firmly from the back. "4, Adrien corrected, without missing a beat. "Sorry, Benny." Benny thumped his tail. They went inside. It was not grand. It was barely finished. The floors were plain pine. The kitchen had appliances that worked and counters that didn't match. There were 2 bedrooms upstairs and a small one downstairs, and a couch that had been in the living room long enough to have a shape to it. It smelled a little of dust and a little of the sea. Lena stood in the middle of the small living room with her one duffel bag at her feet. For the first time in 3 days, she let herself feel how tired she was. It came over her in a wave so big she had to sit down on the arm of the couch. "Lena, I'm okay. I'm gonna... Yeah, go up. Take the big bedroom. Noah can take the small one next to it, or he can be in with you, whatever he wants. I'll take the downstairs. The water works. The heat works. There's a can of soup in the kitchen cabinet that's probably 3 years old. Don't eat it. I'll go into town in the morning." Adrien. "Yeah. Sit down. For a second. Just sit." He looked at her for a moment. Then he sat. Not next to her on the arm of the couch. Across from her, on the old armchair. Like a man still minding his distance, even in a house he had just walked into for the first time. Noah crawled up onto the couch and put his head on Lena's lap. Benny jumped up too, which was probably not allowed, and nobody told him so. Adrien, in the armchair, put his head back against the upholstery and closed his eyes. And for a few minutes, none of them said anything. And the only sounds in the little house were the tin roof ticking as it cooled, and the far, faint sigh of water against rocks. "Adrien," Lena said quietly. "We made it." He didn't open his eyes. "We made it to the first night," he said. "Let's see how the rest goes." But his mouth did a thing at the corner that was almost a smile, and she saw it, and she decided that was good enough for tonight. Well, the first week was not what she had expected. She had thought she would feel safe the moment they were off the road. She did not. For the first 3 days, she flinched at the sound of every car that passed on the gravel. She slept with Noah in the big bed in the big room, and she woke every time the house creaked. She looked over her shoulder in the little general store in town and wondered whether that woman by the pickles had looked at her a second too long. She cried once, in the shower, where nobody could hear. A short, hard cry, more release than grief, her good hand against the tile. Adrien did not push her. He did not ask her if she was okay in a way that made her feel watched. He just did small, quiet things. He fixed the porch sag on the north side in an afternoon, with a drill and a length of cedar and a lot of patience. He bought Noah a pair of rain boots 2 sizes too big, because the woman at the store had said he'd grow into them, and Noah loved them so much he wore them to bed the first night, and cried when Lena took them off. Adrien put them right next to the bed, where Noah could reach down and touch them in the dark, and Noah slept with one hand on the rubber toe. The first time Noah saw the ocean, Adrien was the one with him. It was an accident, not a plan. Lena was upstairs hanging wet laundry on the little rack because the dryer didn't work yet. Adrien and Noah had gone out to look at the path to the beach. They were only supposed to go look. They went past looking. She came downstairs and found the front door open, and panic went through her like a shock of cold water for about 3 seconds, and then she saw them. 2 figures, one tall, one very small, standing at the end of the short wooden path where it ended at the sand. She pulled a sweater over her head, and she followed barefoot across the cold sand. They did not hear her coming. Noah was standing with his arms straight down at his sides and his mouth slightly open, and the wind was pushing his hair back off his forehead, and he was looking at the water the way a person looked at a thing they did not know the world contained. "It's big," he said. "It's big," Adrien agreed. "It's moving. It does that." "All the time?" "All the time." "Even at night?" "Even at night. Even when no one is watching." Noah thought about this. "That's a lot of work," he said. Adrien laughed. It was the first real laugh Lena had heard come out of him. Not a small, tired one, a real one, low, surprised, from his chest. And he put a hand on the back of Noah's head, briefly, the way a man might touch the head of a child he loved, and then he took it away, like he had caught himself. Lena stood there behind them, in the wind, with her good arm wrapped around herself, and she understood that this was the place, that they had not just escaped to a place, that this was going to be, in some real way, the place. She did not need the whole life figured out. She did not need a plan. She just needed the next morning, and the morning after that, and she could feel, standing there on cold sand, that those mornings were going to come. She walked out onto the beach. Noah spotted her. Aunt Lena, look, it's the whole ocean. I see it, buddy. It's moving." "Yeah, all the time." She came up beside Adrien. He didn't turn. His eyes were on the horizon. "Thanks for showing him," she said. "He showed me." Weeks became months. Months became a year. She was not going to pretend it was easy. It wasn't. There was a night, the second month in, when she woke up at 3 a.m. in a total sick panic, convinced she had heard a car on the gravel, and she had tiptoed into the hallway with a kitchen knife in her hand before she understood that the sound was the wind and the dog and her own heart. Adrien found her sitting on the stairs at 4 a.m. calm, the knife on the step beside her, her face in her hands. He sat down 2 stairs below her so that his head was below hers. She understood later that he had done that on purpose, and he did not say anything for a long time. And then he said, "It's going to happen a few more times. Not forever. A few more times. And then one day you'll realize it's been a month since it happened, and that's the day." It did happen a few more times. And it got further apart. And the day he had told her about came, about 7 months in, when she woke up one Tuesday and realized she had slept through the night with the window open, and her hand had not been under the pillow on the knife. And it took her a minute to understand why that felt strange. She got a job. Not because they needed the money. They didn't, at least not yet. But because she had been a waitress for 12 years, and being a waitress had been the thing that reminded her she was a person. She took 3 shifts a week at a little restaurant in town that did seafood in a way that was both fancier than it needed to be and not as fancy as it thought. The owner was a woman named Fran, who was 60 and had a voice like gravel, and liked Lena within 10 minutes and did not ask questions within 11. It was good work. It was honest work. Her tips were mostly in cash. She came home smelling like butter and old fish. Adrien taught himself to do things. That was how she came to think of his year. He taught himself to do things. He had been, for most of his adult life, a man whose skills had been of a particular kind. He had been very good at those skills. When he set them down, he had a lot of empty space to fill, and he filled it by becoming a man who could fix a porch, and then a roof, and then a small engine. He took a boat out into the cove one morning, a boat that the previous owner had left in the shed, and he came back 8 hours later sunburned and proud of himself because he had caught 2 fish and not drowned. He read. He read in a way that would have been alarming if she hadn't understood that he was making up for years of not. Novels, history, a book about bees, a book about carpentry, a book about the Punic Wars, which he would try to summarize to her on the porch in the evening with a beer in his hand, and he would get distracted by one small thing and go on about it for an hour, and she would listen and she would think, he is a person. He was always a person. He's just becoming the person out loud now. He did not sleep well some nights. She did not either. They found one night in the 3rd month that they slept better in the same bed than in separate ones, and after that they slept in the same bed. And it did not become a romantic thing for a long time after that. It became a practical thing first. 2 people who could not sleep alone, sleeping in the same room with the dog on the floor and the boy across the hall. The romantic thing came later, slow, careful, in the way things came when 2 people had both been broken in ways that were specific and did not match up neatly and had to be fit together a piece at a time. She told him everything about her life. He told her most of his. There was a conversation, one winter night about 14 months in, where she asked him a question she had never asked him. She asked him if there was more, if there were things he had done and had not told her and was carrying. He looked at her for a long time over the kitchen table, and then he told her about a woman in a country whose name he did not say, and about a decision he had made when he was 24 that he had carried since. And he told her how it had ended, and what had been left, and he did not soften it, and he did not ask her to forgive him. He just put it on the table, and he waited. She got up and walked around the table, and she put her arms around his shoulders from behind, and she put her cheek against the top of his head. She did not say anything for a long time. And then she said, "I'm not the person who forgives you for that. She is, if she's anywhere. But I can love the man who told me." And he made a small sound that she had heard a man make maybe twice in her life, and she held him until his shoulders stopped shaking, and then they got up and they did the dishes. That was a different kind of night in the story of the two of them. That was a turning. Noah grew. That was the part that kept astonishing her. That was the part she had not let herself hope for, even in the good days at the stone house. Noah grew, he put on weight, he got taller. He started kindergarten in the fall of their second year in the little house, at a small school in town where the teacher was a large, soft-voiced man named Mr. Peeler, who Noah adored by the end of the first week. He made friends, slowly. One friend first, a little girl named Robin, whose father ran the hardware store, and then a second, a boy named Caleb, and by the time he was 6, he had a small stable pack of children he ran with on the beach on Saturdays, shouting things Lena could not always hear over the wind, which was the most beautiful music she had ever listened to. He called Adrien by his name for a long time. And then, one day, without any warning, in the kitchen, while Adrien was making pancakes, Noah said, very casually, "Dad, can I have another one?" Adrien stood still at the stove with the spatula in his hand. He did not turn around. Lena, at the table, looked at the back of his head, and she saw his shoulders go up slightly and come down. "Yeah, buddy," he said, after a second. His voice was completely normal. "Yeah, you can have 2 more if you want." "Just one." "One more, then." He made the pancake. He brought it over. He set it down. He kissed the top of Noah's head, a thing he had started doing at some point in the last year, as casually as breathing, and he went back to the stove. When he turned to this counter for the butter, Lena saw that his eyes were wet. He was not going to say anything about it. He didn't. He just flipped his next pancake, and he acted like the whole thing was an ordinary Saturday breakfast. Because he had learned a long time ago that the best way to not scare a child out of a new word was to treat the new word like it had always been there. She watched him do that, and sometime around that morning, there wasn't a specific day, but it was around then, she stopped calling what they had an arrangement, even in her head. She started calling it a family. Travis Marin died in a bar fight in a town in North Florida 3 years after the parking lot. She found out by accident. She was not watching for him, exactly, but she had set up a kind of quiet alert once, a long time ago, and it pinged one morning with a small local paper obituary. Bar fight. Another man, a stranger, over a pool game. A bottle. A doctor who could not save him. Survived by nobody who had come forward. She sat on the porch for a long time after she read it. Adrien came out. He sat next to her. He looked at her face and he understood, without her saying anything, what she had just read. "You all right?" he said. "I don't know what I am." "That's fair. He died stupid. He died exactly the way he was going to die." "Yes. I thought I would feel more." "That's usually how it goes." She looked at him. "Are you glad?" He thought about it. He did not rush an answer. That was one of the things about him that had become, over the years, a thing she trusted, that he did not rush answers to the hard questions. "I'm relieved," he said, finally. "Glad is the wrong word. I wasn't going to go looking for him, but I'm relieved that he's not out there anymore. I think you can allow yourself that too, if it's honest. Relief is a different animal than celebration." She nodded. She put her hand in his hand. "Okay," she said. And that was all they ever said about Travis Marin, out loud. In the 4th year, Lena started helping other women. It started small, the way these things did. Fran at the restaurant had a niece in Tennessee who needed to leave her husband, and Fran asked Lena if she knew anybody, and Lena said, maybe. She talked to Adrien. Adrien said, I know a woman in Atlanta who runs a place. I haven't talked to her in 10 years. Let me call her. He called her. The niece went to Atlanta. She got out. She sent a postcard 6 months later that said, thank you. I don't know who you are, but thank you. The postcard went on the fridge. Other postcards followed, eventually. Not many, not a flood, but one, and then three, and then a small rotating collection from women Lena had never met in person, who had gotten a phone number passed to them, from someone who had gotten it from someone, who had gotten it from a waitress at a restaurant on a stretch of coast. Lena did not run anything. She did not have an office. She had a phone, and she had the right number of people to call, and she had a voice that knew what it was like to be on the other end of that phone. She was careful. She was quiet. She did not make a business of it, and she did not make a cause of it. She just answered when the phone rang, and sometimes the phone rang and she answered, and she said the thing a woman on the other end of a phone call at 3 a.m. needed to hear, which was not, it's going to be okay. It was, I believe you. She was not going to call it her life's work. She did not think in those big words about herself. But it was. She did think in her own way that the world had not done much for Maya when Maya had needed it. And if there was something to be done now for other women with a phone and a voice and a good man in the next room who knew people in 11 cities, then she was going to do it. Not because it was noble, because she remembered the parking lot. Adrien helped when she asked him to. He did not push in when she didn't. Once every year or two, he would go somewhere for a week, and he would come back tired and quiet, and she would not ask. And he would, always, eventually, tell her what he had done on the third or fourth night over a glass of wine on the porch. Not details. Shapes. And she would listen, and she would understand, and she would not ask him not to go again. She had decided in the first year that she was not going to be the woman who tried to make Adrien Voss into a man he wasn't. He had been a man who stopped bad things. He was going to keep being that man sometimes. He just also got to be the man who made pancakes. The one did not cancel out the other. That had been a hard lesson. She had learned it. They had their own kid eventually, a girl, born in the 5th year. They named her Maya. Nobody made a speech about why. She had her mother's stubborn chin and her father's careful eyes, and she was, from the first week, ferociously herself. Noah, who was almost 9 by then, took her over immediately. He was the one who got her to sleep on the night she would not sleep. He walked her on his hip around the porch at 2 a.m, singing little nothings in a low voice, because he had, somewhere along the line, discovered that he could sing. Lena had not known a child could be born to help another child heal. She had not known she was going to watch her nephew become her daughter's best friend before her daughter was 3. A lot of things she had not known had turned out to be true. Benny got old. He went gray around the muzzle. He died, in the 7th year, in his sleep, on the foot of Noah's bed. Noah cried for 3 days, really cried, the whole body kind he had not been able to do when he was 4, and Adrien held him for a long time on the couch, while the boy's shoulders shook. They buried the dog under the oak at the edge of the property. Noah planted a small circle of shells around the spot. A week later, he asked for another dog, and they got a mutt from the shelter 2 towns over and named him Pete. And Pete was nothing like Benny, which was what everyone, including Pete, preferred. 10 years after the parking lot behind the laundromat in Asheford, Lena Cross stood on the same porch, on the same coast, and watched the sunset turn the water the color of something she did not have a word for. Noah was 14. He was at a friend's house for the weekend. He was tall now, taller than she was, and he was going to be taller than Adrien before he was done. He had his mother's laugh, finally, which Lena had not heard in so many years it had taken her a while the first time to place it. He wrote in a notebook he carried everywhere and would not show her yet. He had told her once, in the car, that he wanted to be a person who wrote stories, and she had said, good, and she had not asked him to explain himself because she had understood. Maya was 5. She was in the yard with Adrien. They were, for reasons Lena could not entirely follow, building a structure out of driftwood. It looked like it might be a fort. It also looked like it might be a boat. Adrien was taking direction from a 5-year-old with great seriousness. Maya was pointing at things and giving orders, and Adrien was nodding and moving sticks. Lena watched them. Lena, She thought about a lot of things standing there. She thought about Maya, her sister Maya, the first one, the one who had not made it. She thought about how unfair it was that her daughter Maya would never meet her, and about how, in a strange way, she did meet her every day, because a 5-year-old who liked to boss men around was maybe the best monument you could build to a woman who had spent her whole short life not being allowed to. She thought about Travis. Not much. Less every year. He was a shape in the back of the room at this point, not gone, never all the way gone, but small. She thought about the woman she had been, on that wet asphalt 37 seconds from the end. She thought about the man who had gotten out of an SUV. She thought about the strange, stubborn fact that he had given her in the kitchen the morning after Ohio. That he had not been driving toward her, that he had been 4 blocks away on a cross line, and he had turned the car around for no reason he could name. She had thought about that a lot over 10 years. She had tried to make it mean something. She had tried to make it a sign. She had tried sometimes, in darker weeks, to make it a debt. In the end, she had settled on this. It did not mean anything big. It was not a sign. It was not a rescue ordered by the universe. It was a man, in a car, on a rainy night, making a small private choice to turn toward a sound instead of away from it. That was all. That was the whole thing. And the lesson of her life, if she was going to let herself have a lesson, was this. The world did not save you. The system did not save you. No grand plan reached down out of the sky and plucked you out of the parking lot. What saved you, when you got saved, was usually one person in one car, making one small choice, for no reason they could properly explain later. And the work of a life, after that, was not to pay it back. You couldn't pay it back. The work was to be for someone else, the person in the car. When your own turn came, and your own turn would come, that was what she tried to tell the women on the phone when they asked her sometimes how she had done it, how she had gotten out, how she had rebuilt. She told them, somebody stopped. And then later I started stopping, and somewhere in between, I became a person who could. She did not tell them it had been fast. She did not tell them it had been clean. She did not tell them that she had been sure the whole way, because she had not been sure. She had been afraid most of the first year. She had fought with Adrien about real things, money, how to talk to Noah, whether he had lied to her about a trip to Chicago in the 3rd year, which he had, a little, and had apologized for. They had cried at each other. They had slept with their backs to each other, some nights. They were not a movie. They were 2 people who had decided every morning for 10 years to keep choosing each other, even on the mornings when the choosing was hard. That was the part you didn't see in movies. Adrien looked up from the driftwood. He caught her watching. He raised an eyebrow. What? She shook her head. Nothing. He smiled anyway. He knew her. Maya, suddenly impatient with the slow pace of her construction foreman, said something Lena couldn't hear from the porch, something that involved stamping one small foot. Adrien laughed and put his hands up in surrender, and Lena laughed too, a small private laugh on a porch in the last light of a Thursday, and she went inside to start dinner. There was one more thing, years later, that she wanted to say. If anyone ever asked her to put her life into a sentence, she would say, the night in the parking lot was not the worst night of her life. The worst night of her life had been the night her sister died, and no stranger had come for that one. She would have been lying to pretend otherwise. Some nights did not have a stranger in a car. Some nights just ended the way they ended, and you had to carry them for the rest of your life. But, and this was the part she would want you to hear, carrying a bad night did not mean you weren't allowed good ones afterward. You were allowed. You were allowed to eat pancakes with a man whose hands had done things. You were allowed to teach your nephew to ride a bike on a gravel road, even though your sister should have been the one teaching him. You were allowed to have a daughter and give her your dead sister's name, and you were allowed to laugh when that daughter turned out to be a tyrant at 5 years old, because your sister would have laughed too. Being allowed to be happy after grief was not a betrayal. It was the job. It was what the people who didn't make it would have wanted for you if they had gotten to pick. That was what she would say. Most people didn't ask her. She didn't say it unless they did. But sometimes, late at night, on the porch, with Adrien's shoulder against hers, and the dog asleep at their feet, and the tide coming in the way the tide came in, All the time, even at night, even when nobody was watching. She would think it, privately, and she would hold it in her mouth for a second before she let it go. And then she would get up and go inside and turn off the porch light and close the door behind her. And the little house, which had once been empty and which would one day be empty again, was, for tonight, full of the people who lived in it. That was enough. That had always been enough. The end.